Way! Hello, everybody. No brownouts this week yet. Okay. Hello, viewer. Today it is Sunday, April the 30th, 2023. I am Mr. Brown, and I trust you are all doing very well today. On this evening's stream /podcast, we are discussing the goings on this week in pop culture and on the social media. But before we begin, and it's a big but, you can find us here on the YouTube, or if you prefer your entertainment in the podcast form, we are also on Spotify. The links are in the description. So, if you've not shut down for the evening, as I always say, lots to get through, shall we get the guests out? Of course we should. Right then. So, first up, the Wanderer returns, everybody. He is the backbone of Sunday night. I can see him smiling. I genuinely love this guy. It is, get ready, folks, Matt Katz 83.
What's up, nerds? I genuinely
Hey!
love you too. I genuinely love you too.
Hello, friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad. How's the channel going? It's been a while.
It's going pretty good. I'm inching towards 6,000 subscribers, so I'm super excited and everything. But I'm doing good. How are you doing?
What, channel-wise or in the head, as it were? I'm doing okay, mate. I'm doing okay. We're getting there.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
You need to start going on some bigger channels because you know your shit, and you should put yourself around a little bit, my friend.
Well, thank you for that. I enjoy the kind words. Yeah, anybody big that wants to have me on, I'm willing. I'm really bad at promoting myself though. I'm really bad at it.
Yeah, same here. I feel like I impose on people.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm the same boat. I'm all like, I'm like, well, if you want to have me on, it's cool, but if not, I get it. So,
well, it's great to have you on, my friend. Shall we get the next body on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. He's back, folks. Twice in 1 week. His missus won't be happy. It's Dark Hour.
Yeah, that's the eye roll that I got when I said, "Oh yeah, Brownie needs me."
How you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good. I released my first of my video Rocky series. It's going over pretty well. You know, of the rankings of the movies, it's going pretty well. So hopefully that takes my channel to monetization level at one point.
Oh, nice. How many subs are you on at the moment?
I'm still significantly below 1,000. I don't even want to say the number. I mean, my channel's pretty new, so.
Well, it's good to have you on, my friend. Shall we get the next body out?
Do it.
Do it now. Okay. Oh, yes. Next, a talented powerhouse of a man. He is the governor of Twitter. You know who it is. It's the governor, everybody.
Hello.
You're
nice.
Yeah, you.
You're nice, kid. You're nice.
Hello, Governor.
All right, I'm still imagining Matt Cat inching his way forward, as he mentioned earlier.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yes.
How's everyone doing? You all right, chat? How's it going?
Hello, chat. We can see you. How's it going, Probby?
Yeah, not too bad. Taking time off Twitter to focus on work.
Oh, yay. So everybody's on. Everybody's safe at the moment on Twitter. No people going in the bin.
No one's in the bin currently.
Get in.
Oh, hello.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Somebody's Siri decided to chime in.
Sorry,
even technology wants to interrupt me when I'm saying something.
We're all doomed, mate.
I'm used to it.
So you're good, Probby, yes.
I'm good. Bring on the next guest. Go on, off you go.
Yes. I think I need to go to Specsavers. I'm blind. Okay. Let me read. Here we go. I'm going cross-eyed. Sorry, folks. We see the good inside our next guest. You know who it is, don't you? It is the Dark Sith Lord Little Platoon.
Good evening.
Hello there.
Oh, how is everyone?
Not bad. Are you well, Lord?
All good, thank you. Yes, not too bad.
How's your channel going, Lord?
Reasonably, I think. I haven't checked recently.
Oh,
It's going all right. The Mandalorian video's taking on up there, and I need to do part 2. Then I got interrupted by Peter Pan and Wendy, so that's going to be delayed. And Guardians is coming out at the end of the week, I think. So I've
is
got a
it this week?
busy couple of weeks coming up.
do you think Gardens is going to be good or poop?
Probably average, somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's going to be as terrible as most recent productions. I don't think it's going to be exceptional. I would be very surprised if it turned out to be brilliant, but it will be a cut above every recent MCU production, probably.
So, more videos on the way, my friend.
Yep, there's Peter Pan and Wendy at some point this week. Hopefully Mando Part 2 also this week, and then next Monday before the V-Sub episode, there should be a Guardians video. So 3 in the space of a week, which will probably kill me, but we'll see what happens.
You are going to be a busy little lord.
Yes.
Good to have you on, my friend. Shall we get the next step? Well, shall we get the last person out?
Good to be here. Yeah, I think that sounds like a plan.
It is. It is. I can't speak tonight, sorry, everybody. Here you go, folks. And last but by no means least, he is the wise elder of the channel. You know the rest. He is the great mega geek himself. Hello, Ian.
Hello. What's up, nerds? Yeah,
It's
he's back.
Ian David Diaz, everybody.
Yeah, welcome to the party, pal. Yeah, I'm back. How's
Been a
everybody?
while,
All right?
friend.
Yes. Well, not really. I was there last week, wasn't I?
He was, yeah.
So, I guess it's been a while. How come everybody's mics are off?
And you guys just streamed like 3 days ago together.
Yeah, we did, or something like that, didn't we? Everybody's mics are off. Look.
Yeah, not in a sociable mood. Sod off.
Okay, all right.
How's Rebecca Gold going?
She's all right. It's looking as horny as ever. So there you go.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah, it's going fine. It's going fine.
The show's taking a serious turn then.
Yeah, I've turned it into a porno, so there you go.
What?
I'll subscribe.
There you go.
Okay, good to have you on, Ian.
Yeah, it's good to be on.
Shall we get on with it? My cat has just walked in the room.
Let's just get on with it,
Yeah,
shall
do
we?
it. Do it.
Demanding pussy, everybody. Okay, so let me get my graphics up.
One
There you
for
go.
one.
Musical edition.
End of week musings. Sunday, April 30th, 2023, episode 141. Can you believe it? And bless him, there he is. It is Jerry Springer.
Yeah, shame he's gone.
It's the voice of the 90s in America right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
If it wasn't for his show, we wouldn't have had all that crap on our TV, would we? Like Vanessa Belps and who's the other fella?
Yeah, he pretty much he trailblazed for like all those trashy TV shows.
Yeah.
Tame by today's standards. But anyway, if you have made it this far and you're enjoying this content, please like, share, subscribe. Every single click will help this channel grow. Clicks, baby, clicks. Chats, hello, chats. We can see you. We can see you. Hello. Okay, so first up, folks.
Fugly Superman.
What?
Who's still watching this? Matt Cat.
I love this show. I do have to admit though, this season is a little bit of a slow burn, and I'm a little like they're focusing heavily on this Lois has cancer storyline, which I don't necessarily mind, but it's again a really slow burn, and quite a bummer while watching it, because I'm like, this isn't This Is Us. Like, I feel like they're trying to get us to cry every episode, and I've had enough of that nonsense. But it's still a good show. I would just like to see more, Superman, stopping buildings from falling over a little bit, just a little bit more of that, and you know, a little less of the trying to make me cry every episode because Lois is sick. Plus, cancer's hardcore to like deal with on a show, so I'm all like, I just yeah, I would just prefer not to deal with that every single week. You know what I'm saying?
We're all agreed cancer sucks, but I definitely think, Matt, something should have happened this episode.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, and his son, Jordan, the younger one, with his superpowers, he's kind of getting a little bit annoying in my opinion, but that's just a character, you know. And I don't know how you feel about it, Ian, but the kid that plays Jonathan, not as good as the last kid. I feel like he's not on the same level acting wise because I just don't care about him like I did the
They
previous
replaced
season.
him.
They
They
are,
did
yes.
replace him, yes.
But
come
he's got the same eyebrows as his brother now, so that's not too bad.
Yes, that's
He-
what
he
we
can't
need, the same
act,
eyebrows.
Yeah.
We got matching eyebrows, folks.
Killer
Yeah.
eyebrows.
And I'm very curious to where they're going with this season because I just you know they have Intergang and they have Onomatopoeia in there, but they're not. It's not my Intergang from the comic books because they don't do the they get their weaponry from Apocalypse. And in this show, they don't get their weaponry, their gadgets and stuff from Apocalypse. They get it from like the DoD or whatnot. And then Onomatopoeia, like they've race swapped, and her powers aren't.
What a surprise.
Well, she's
Yeah,
got cancer as well.
She does have cancer. They revealed
Or
that
has
this.
she?
Yeah, that's a. I don't know. Like like I
Is she a
said before.
plant?
The show is not bad. It's just this season, like I said before, they've kind of pulled back on Superman and fighting bad guys and focused on him being like not being able to, you know, kill cancer kind of thing, which I'm all like, okay, I get it, but
It's still good though, isn't it?
it's very good. I enjoy it every
Yeah, it
week.
is.
It's really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Has it turned into the Lois show then?
Well, I mean, in fairness, it is called
No.
Superman and Lois. So I mean, to focus to do a balance. I mean, I felt like the first two seasons was very Superman, you know, heavy. But at the same time, you're right. It has. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's turned into the Lois show, but. I don't hate it. That's the thing. That's the thing that I get from it. It doesn't make me like roll my eyes every episode. So.
Well, it does seem to be the thing these days where most storylines in TV shows focuses on the female.
Not this one, no.
Well, I mean, I am not watching this season, so I guess you can tell me whether it is.
I'd
doing.
still say, folks, that this is still very, very good.
Yeah. I agree.
Perhaps if something had have happened this episode, it felt like it needed to happen, but it's still good. So I'm kind of still looking forward to the next episode. Yes, Matt?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see Bizarro come back. It's gonna be great.
I know, that's going to be fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna
so
be
Superman and Lois, everybody, still recommend it. Let's move on.
Rabbit Hole.
Who's watching Rabbit Hole? I'm kind of thinking it's just me.
I've stopped. I couldn't take it anymore.
It's
I just
very
thought-
complicated.
It's not complicated. It's just I got tired of suddenly they throw in something and you're like, hey, I thought that person was dead, or you know, and then I just thought, you know what, I can't take
Yeah,
this
lots
anymore.
of there's lots of
Yeah.
what's it called when they go
Flashbacks.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say flash forward.
Yeah,
Flashbacks.
yeah. Flashbacks. So I've just given up on it. I might go back to it though because it is an interesting premise, but I just don't want to work too hard when I'm sitting there eating something, you know, and watching TV. I don't really want to be working too hard. So but
Yeah, I kind of get the sense it's really a show that should have probably been like the Netflix style, where they just release it all at once, and
maybe.
you can kind of watch it quickly.
No, I
could-
think if you did that, your brain would fry because
yeah.
it is very, very complicated to follow, but it's still good.
Mm.
I would almost describe it as 24 for intellectual types, but that's just me.
Mm.
I can't. get-
I'll eventually when the whole thing, because I watched the first 2 episodes.
I think there's 2 episodes to go.
Yeah, once they're all out, I'll probably binge the rest and then let you know how I felt. But
Do you know what I was watching today? I know it's not on the docket, your docket. I was watching that James Bond thing that Amazon has out. What's it called? Cedar? I can't remember what it's called. You guys heard of it? The guy that's in The Bodyguard, the BBC Bodyguard. He
Citadel.
That's it, Citadel.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
I
Is it any
watched
good?
it. It's very simple and it's got a lot of action in it, but the problem is I don't care about anyone in it. And the girl is sexy as hell. She gets thrown around a lot. You know what I mean? She gets punched a lot as well, which I'm really surprised because usually these days when girls are doing an action thing, men hardly touch them. But she gets really mullered in a couple of scenes and stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but it's very simple. It's simple stuff. So, check it out if you want to. I think it's okay.
That's Citadel, yeah.
Yeah, Citadel. Yeah.
Isn't that that's Richard Madden, isn't it?
Yes,
The guy
Richard
who
Madden.
was the
Yeah.
bodyguard and in the Internals.
Yeah, him, yeah.
Okay, so I would still recommend Rabbit Hole, folks. It's complicated, but it seems to be well produced, well written. So 2 episodes to go. So that's so recommended. Next.
Good.
No spoilers.
how can you talk about the most recent episode?
Okay, so
Oh
next,
my.
folks.
Yes. I love this.
Obviously, no spoilers.
No, I'm not going to tell you any spoilers. I'm not going to tell
So
you that.
it's a step up, is it, from the first 2 episodes of this season?
I'm not going to tell you that Barry dies and the whole place blows up. No,
The
really.
prison
I'm
gets hit by
joking.
a-
I'm joking.
Yeah, the prison gets hit by a thermonuclear weapon.
explosion.
And he escapes in a fridge. Go on, tell me.
Yeah, but this episode was really good. Again, really well directed. Again, really well performed. But I just, with this season, I just feel that I want the old Barry back. I don't know about you, Ian, but I just feel I want
Agreed.
the old. Because
Still good.
it's still good. Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah.
The ending was to die for as well. But I'm just saying that, he seems to be losing it. And I was just thinking to myself, oh God, I wish he was back to the way he was before. But, this is coming to the end of the
Well, that's
whole
character development.
Yeah,
Here
yeah.
you go,
He's been
folks.
through a
One for the
lot, and he has
Brits.
been.
Smilex. Is this a biopic about
No.
Barry Chuckle?
Afraid not.
No.
To me,
No.
to you.
Yeah. to me,
To
to
me.
you. But yeah, Barry's good. I recommend it seriously. Matt Cat, try and catch Barry season 1. If you do not like season 1, don't watch the rest. But I guarantee you'll love season 1. Guaranteed.
Sorry, I was on mute. I have watched the first 2 episodes, and then I just got super busy. But I did enjoy what I saw. So,
It gets better and better and better.
Right
It
on.
does. It does. That's all I can say about that. As
Yes, cheers,
as
probably.
Forrest Gump says.
I'm sorry. The thing is, they're 30-minute episodes, and I watch it with a friend, and he wants to watch them 2 episodes at a time, because the thing is, we enjoy it so much that after 30 minutes, you're like, I want more.
Yeah.
So, want to do it in 2 episode bundles. That way we can enjoy more of it.
Here you go, Nerdy Film Girl. Hello, Nerdy Film Girl. Barry's fantastic. See, Nerdy's got good taste. Here you go. Barry, fantastic. It is.
It's not predictable as well. You can never predict what's going to happen within a minute by minute basis on Barry, especially this season. I never knew what was going to happen.
Always keeps you on your toes all the way through.
Yeah.
So here you go. Nerdy. Bill Hader, was it Hader?
Hater.
Is a fantastic
Hader.
He is.
Yeah. He's a great director. He really is.
And a great actor.
He also wrote a comic book too. So
He did, yeah.
He's multi-talented.
He is very.
Polymath.
Is this comic book good?
It's, by modern standards, it's not bad. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, it wasn't like completely woke beyond belief. So it was a small Spider-Man story called The Short Halloween. So it wasn't really like anything crazy.
Look who's in, folks. The listening fat bro. Yeah, man. Few rest in peace Calculons. Very, very sad.
I think that joke is getting wearing thin.
I didn't. So I actually had to ask because
No.
I didn't actually watch the stream that it was from. So I was just like, I have no idea where this is from, and Brown had to
All you
explain it
need
to
to
me.
know is if you watch anybody's live stream, just throw in a rest in peace Calclon. It's good for the community.
It
They'll
is.
know. They'll know.
It is. Okay, so Barry, still good. Everybody should be watching it.
Recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on.
Ah,
Whoa.
Nerds, nerds,
hey,
nerds.
nerds.
Geek What? That's Catty. Does not, I repeat, does not recommend at Geek What Inc. So, young Matthew,
Well, this week I am not recommending Peter Pan and Wendy. I saw this
is it
movie.
that?
Yes, it's on Disney Plus, and it is pure shite. It is terrible.
Shite,
The kid that plays Peter Pan, man, he cannot act.
He
I was
really
like-
can't.
Yeah,
It's-
the whole
it's not good.
Yeah, it's so it's like watching a wooden plank talk. And the whole time I was just like, I was on my phone. I was like, I had to pause it a couple of times to go do some other stuff. And then I came back and I was like, oh, I really don't want to finish this like at all. The first, I'll say 40 minutes are so freaking boring that I was just like, do I even want to watch the rest of it? I really just don't care. And then the last part of it isn't like as bad as the first part, but it's still pretty bad. Like the whole time watching it, I'm just like the Lost Boys aren't even the Lost Boys. It's like the Lost Kids because there's like some girls in there who are all amazing, by the way. And then there's like it should have just been called Wendy, like just plain old Wendy, because like and I don't even care about Wendy. She's like, oh, I don't want to grow up, and I'm like, well, welcome to the real world, honey, because it's like that's what's gonna happen.
Good to have him back, isn't it, folks?
And then, but Jude Law, I actually did like Jude Law in this movie, even though he looks all like a homeless person. But I did like him because I'm like, Jude Law is a really good actor. I just wish he had gotten a better project than this nonsense.
His hook looks really big. And then that's not
Oh,
That's what she said.
That was the
Ding
point.
dong.
all to hook you in with, darling.
Yeah, it's just really really bad, and like the island Neverland does not seem magical at all. It just seems like they filmed, in I don't know what parts of Europe. It looks like they filmed in England somewhere.
Neverland.
Yeah, Neverland. Yes.
Not
and
Michael
MJ.
Jackson's house.
yes, yes.
But the whole thing is entirely free of magic, which it was one of the more sort
Yeah.
of interesting things about it, I thought. So I started watching it just because it was there, not really anticipating doing anything with it. And I sort of got half an hour in and I thought, how the hell can you make Peter Pan so grey and drab and uninteresting? And so naturally, I went and watched the 53 film and the 2003 films and ended up writing a script about it, because it's like you can compare what they do as a means of understanding, just because it's another useful example as well of the way Disney has completely lost everything that once made it the home of children's entertainment or entertainment generally. It's lost
Yeah.
all of the magic in it. And the writers of this haven't even bothered, I don't think, to understand what made the original 53 film, at least, or even Barry's plays, so magical to begin with. They're comparing the setup where in this film she's being sent away to boarding school. She doesn't really want to. Peter Pan turns up because he wants to take her away to Neverland. Tinkerbell isn't jealous about any of this. There's no romance in this, unrequited or otherwise, as there is, and it's key to the older works because Tinkerbell's jealousy, Tiger Lily's jealousy, and Wendy's jealousy all play an incredibly important part, and they give these characters much more place in the universe. It's what really drives the plot along. It's always a story about the girls, not a story about Peter Pan. It's a story about Wendy and always has been. But this film decides that, well, because it's about Wendy, she has to save Peter at every given opportunity, but she's also strong and independent, so she can't fancy him because that would be diminishing. She doesn't want to be a mother in this one, which she wants to be in the original, and that's key to the growing up aspect. It's such an empty production altogether.
Do you think it was done deliberately then to actually push Peter back
Yes.
and have Wendy in the front?
Only up to a point. I mean, I think, yes, that they wanted to have Wendy more sort of action-packed and front and center. They wanted to have the sword fights. They wanted to be more present at the front of the script. And in front of the camera more often. Tiger Lily as well has literal slow motion hero shots at one point when she's fighting pirates on the ship, while Wendy is saving Peter from falling out of the ship because he's forgotten how to fly. And the whole conflict between him and Hook is barely in existence in this film. They actually turn Peter Pan into basically the principal villain, because it's explained, borrowing from a book that was written, I think, in 2017, some work of effectively fan fiction, that Captain Hook was the first lost boy and Peter exiled him because he missed his home. So Peter's become the reason that Captain Hook exists and the reason he's evil. There's one moment of reconciliation toward the end where Peter realizes that what he did was wrong. And Captain Hook we think he dies because he says he can't fly because he has no happy memories. And that's Peter's fault. He falls into the ocean. And Peter is crying on the deck of the ship. And you think, okay, so this is character development. This is character growth. Finally, Peter Pan has recognized consequences for his actions. And in the middle of the scene, Wendy interrupts and says, basically, fuck it, I'm bored, let's go home. And that's it. It's like, how do you put this on the screen and not realize what you've done? You've turned Peter Pan into this cold, nasty villain. You've almost brought him back from that. And then Wendy, who is the hero of your story, effectively destroys all of his character development and ensures that he becomes this unending child and will never grow again because she's broken his development. It's a staggeringly incompetent thing, but the most depressing thing about it is just how depressing it is. Completely bland, completely without magic, and missing the point of the original, which was always Wendy's story more than Peter's.
So
And they just don't understand subtlety.
What's the point? I mean, how many? This is the crux of the situation. I mean, how many bloody movies of Peter Pan do you need? That has told the story competently multiple times from different perspectives, and more in the terms of entertainment. I just don't understand why this needed to exist in the first place.
What nationality is Peter, the guy who plays him?
I actually have his.
South Asian, isn't he?
He's actually British, but if you're talking about like ethnically, I could look that. It doesn't actually say. Let me put it this way:
He's Nigerian.
I was looking up the filmographies of the two main leads. They are in nothing.
Yeah, well, the Wendy is what's that woman's name? She's in Resident Evil. It's her daughter.
She plays
the
Red Queen, Alicia Marcus.
Yeah, and
young
then,
Alicia Marcus.
And Platoon, when you were watching it, when it was nighttime, were you like squinting, like, what's going on here? I can't see anything because it was too dark, and I was like, maybe I should do that game. They should do that Game of Thrones thing where they do the day for night filming, because I was like, I couldn't see anything the whole time. I was just like, what's going on here? And I was like, this is ridiculous.
If you make it dark, you don't need to render it.
Well, they don't even bother to do that anyway. Tinkerbell in this it's so comically badly done in terms of CGI. So it almost looks like that they've reshot it 5 minutes before they put the thing out to publication, because it's her face and the backdrop is just blurred out, and it's basically a matte backdrop with her standing in front of it acting like an amateur dramatics performer. And it looks so janky and shit and out of place. Thankfully, or not, given that it ruins the story, she isn't a character in this film. So it doesn't really matter. She's just there. But she doesn't really serve any purpose. She doesn't drive the plot along. The only bit in which she has any interaction is where she sympathizes with Wendy, and she likes Wendy in this one. She doesn't hate her, because that would be interesting.
Yeah.
She likes Wendy because Wendy tries to listen to her and Peter never does. And Wendy says, yeah, he never listens to me either. So it's all against the boy. The boy's a shit. And the girls immediately love each other and give themselves these self-congratulatory sympathy wanks. It's
Will they be
bad.
lesing off?
Why?
I think they're about 10, so...
Why
maybe not.
does Peter Pan look like a lesbian in this poster?
Because he's a lesbian.
I think what it needed really was to have Lizzo as Peter Pan.
No, that would have been...
So if there was any lesing off,
entertaining.
if there was any lesing off, the actress who plays Tinkerbell would be in a lot of trouble, because she's like 9 years older than the 15-year-old who plays.
Yeah, and going back to Platoon's thing, I love how her last line was like, thank you for listening to me, or something like that. And I'm all like, oh, great, finally, you've finally been heard, or whatnot. We get it, okay?
So the people that wrote this, right, were they of that persuasion with the agenda and all that stuff?
Probably.
Well, it's Disney, must have been.
Yeah, probably. They're not. It's not as jam-packed with it as I was probably expecting it to be. So my main problems with it aren't actually the girl boss stuff, though it's in there. It's mostly reserved for the end. So it's not the biggest issue. There's not as much of it as there could have been, but it smacks of two male writers, I think it is, who are really trying so hard to pass the Bechdel test that they have essentially destroyed the female characters they're writing. And you find this all the time whenever anyone tries too hard to pass the Bechdel test. What they do is they have women just talk to each other in this boilerplate, self-congratulatory, completely content-free manner in a way that's so bland and disinteresting that it's kind of embarrassing. And it's also what you would never do with your male characters, and it's never done with male characters, because all of the people who write this way sort of tacitly understand that male characters are interesting because of what they do and how they think and what they accomplish, and they don't need constant social affirmation, but they always seem to think that women do. There's no necessary reason for this, because again, you can just compare it to the older films, and you find that Wendy, Tinkerbell, and Tiger Lily are much more interesting because of their conflicts and the actions they take. But there's this weird modern obsession with giving women just this sorority, not fraternity.
Why is it important to have the Bechdel test? Because that doesn't exist in real life, does it? Really, let's face it. People do what they want to do. Doesn't matter if they're female or male. So why is it important to actually have that kind of crap in our films? Yeah, I know. It's just, I mean, it's good for you guys to write about this and get more subs and all that, but I will not be watching this film.
Don't.
Take it, everybody.
This one I'm not even expecting to get a huge number of views. I thought this is interesting to sort of write about and do videos on, not for the usual monetization reasons, but because you can compare it to the classics of the Disney era, and you can then say, well, look, what made Disney so magical in 1953, and how has it lost that magic now? How has it gone from that to this in half a century?
I was going to ask you, why did you go out of your way to watch this?
I didn't. It was just on. I was taking a break from The Mandalorian, and I was looking for something that was on. I saw this was out, and I figured, well, I'll give it a go and see what happens. I always liked the original.
Is it better than the Robin Williams one?
No.
Lord, are you available to read a super chat, please?
Can I just get my in? Because he did ask a question.
Yeah,
no, Hostman's been waiting longer, sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to ask if there was a crocodile. I wanted to ask.
I'll come to that in a second. I'll do the super chat first. Hostman Socrates for $5. This was before we then spent the last 15 minutes talking about it.
Sorry,
I swear if I hear one more word about Peter Pan and Wendy, I'll open fire like a CIA asset above in Las Vegas. This comment contained many errors. Too late, sorry.
Also, there is one from Movie Cynic, but I'm not going to say that name because channels are getting taken down for mentioning that name.
We need some kind of code word. It's
Right, yeah.
Millen
Poo poo pee pee. Yes.
Dirk McPenis.
Just do the tried and true. Just reverse the first two letters.
Millen
Delvani.
Yes.
Oh, too close, too close.
Yeah. Do not mention those two.
On the
who must not
crocodile
be named.
question, problem being, there is a crocodile in one scene. It has no relevance to the plot at all, and I think they deliberately wanted to stray, I think, away from that in a bid to make it seem different somehow. It didn't work, but the crocodiles, it's in one scene. It doesn't really give a shit about Hook, and it doesn't actually feature after that one scene.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, so
in the chat, there was a croc of shite.
oh, you mean?
That's funny.
There you go. Yeah, I just saw that one.
Yeah.
Yes. I will say, everybody, I put slow mode on, so it gives me more chance to read the comments, folks. Because yes.
Yeah, and I thought
cut your number of comments in by a third, but okay.
I think it was only 15 seconds, but it just gives me enough time to pick the texts up. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna play this for my kids for movie night, but I was like, "Oh, f-bomb this! This is no good." I was like,
Watch the original; it's so much more fun.
Okay, so
it is.
What we're saying is, other than all that, we recommend this.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, just looking right at the poster, right to start, this looks like a fan-made poster on
It does a bit.
It doesn't even look like they
It
even
looks
gave
like
a
it's
crap
been
enough.
dyed in piss.
That
Yeah, it's
too.
really not. It's just so bad. It's not
An
good.
awful lot of the film looks like it's a fan-made production as well.
Yeah, I would agree with
It's
that. That's a
really
great.
It's
not
got
good.
Disney written all over it as well. Wow.
Yeah, it's so bad.
The sign of quality.
I think we're getting a bit bogged down in that, aren't we? Really. So
Well, it's
shall we
good.
move on?
It's good. It's good
Log
to
up.
hear people's views because the Lords and Matt. So that's great. I think it's great to hear it. So
Yeah.
I won't be watching it though.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Move along. Move along.
Oh,
Where's free Z to sing the song as he normally does every week? Yeah.
Lord calls newsvan. The little platoon. That's
A
you,
picture of his
isn't it,
mum
Lord?
or his sister, whatever.
Did you just assume his gender?
Yes, I'm sorry. Them, they,
Outrageous.
if, but
That
who?
person who was in that super chat is trying to make misgendering a crime, isn't he? That's or isn't they? Them.
Yeah.
Even I did it.
Yes. Yeah.
Get effed
In the bin.
in the bin now.
Okay, let's see what we've got then, folks.
Take it away. Take it away. See, nobody knows what this is. So let me explain what this is. This is a show called The Tomorrow People, which aired in the 70s, which me and Ian saw when we were kids. So
Yes.
basically, the story is about these people who have powers, kind of psychic powers, and they're the people of tomorrow, basically. So they have powers that we should have in the future. And that it's kind of like the X-Men, but a low grade version of it. And they don't
Yep.
sprout hairs or hair all over them or things that come out their fists or anything like that. They just can do things like they can reappear in certain places, disappear and reappear in certain places with the help of a belt, a jaunt belt, it's called. It's in the 70s. Obviously, the hairstyles are there, and it was a bit diverse in those days as well. So, and it was quite successful. Season 1. There you go. So
This was kids' TV as well, wasn't it?
yes,
Ian?
it was ITV Kids TV.
And didn't the kid on the right he got kicked out after a season or two, didn't he? And
He did.
replaced by a younger one or something.
Yes,
because
yes. he
his
did,
voice
yeah.
was breaking or something.
But I remembered an episode as a kid. There was an episode where they were trying to mirror football hooligan, and so the episode was about this group that liked blue badges and another group that liked green badges, and they had arguments over it and fights over it. So it was basically trying to tell us we shouldn't be so awful when we support football teams and stuff like that. I remember that episode. It's quite a famous episode, actually. I don't know if you remember it, Ian.
I was very young.
Oh, okay. There
Somebody
you
in
go.
the chat actually mentioned something I was going to say that it's interesting that you mentioned the X-Men, because when they did Ultimate X-Men, which came out in I don't remember what year, but it was like the 2000s. The first storyline that they had was called The Tomorrow People, so they did actually pay homage to it.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. It has been remade twice. Well,
It
once
has.
in the 90s and once in the 2000s, I think it was.
Yeah, the first one was shot in Canada for America, and it didn't work. And then the second one didn't work either. So there you go.
I can't believe 50 years ago. God, I feel old.
You are old.
We're all old.
I feel very old now.
I was negative 16 when this came out, so
Shut up.
Okay, so
Don't think my mum was alive when this came out.
oh,
She might have just been about. She might have been in a 3-year-old. I don't know.
The thing is, though, it was well ahead of its time. The first season, the second season, the third season were just awful, but the first season was really interesting. So John, who's the guy on the right, he would go and when he senses a tomorrow person, he would go and visit them and say, you're having trouble. You're having trouble focusing and stuff because you have powers. And obviously, the person that they trying to convince wouldn't believe them. And so he has to try and convince them, that kind of thing. So it's like the X-Men, really, when Professor X tries to see something in someone, he tries to tell them, we look after you, come to the school, whatever. It's kind of like that, really. It does mirror the X-Men quite closely to more people, but
Yeah, they're supposed to be like the next stage in evolution.
yeah, in evolution, yeah. So
I think the concept was ahead of
it was a
its
good
time, wasn't
concept,
it?
yeah.
For say it was 1973,
yeah.
and I think it ran for a couple of years.
Yeah, and they have to have this. So basically, at their base, they have a computer called Tim, which was like this big bubble in the ceiling, and he used to tell them things. This is going to happen to the Earth, or this is, and then they go off on adventures and stuff like that. So, but John was the leader. Tim created them these belts so they can actually use their powers to actually beam out of a place and beam to another. Teleport to another place and stuff like that. So
here you go, folks. Daisy Blossom Flower Child. I liked the Tomorrow People.
yeah, it was fun.
it's naff to look at now. I mean,
It is, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
really, really dated.
Mm, yeah.
You go. Tim's taught. Yeah, Tim was Jarvis. Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. More or less.
Okay.
Not as
I've
good as
turned
Ben.
the slow mode off, folks. So okay. So shall we move on then? Yes.
Super
Why not?
pursuit mode, says Bishop Moore.
Bishop Moore in the chat. Slow mode off. We are now in super pursuit mode. We are. And if I miss your chats,
Hyperspace.
I apologise.
I
Let's
am.
move on.
I'm keeping my eyes out for stuff.
Time to start 12.
Daisy Ridley.
Okay, this is the Ray film. Apparently, there was two versions. Damon Lindelof,
Lindelof.
who I think he's been given the boot now, hasn't he? His version of
God.
Ray Star Wars was going to be. It says there 60 years after the rise of soy, and apparently they wanted Helen Mirren to play Ray,
Wow.
but I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, that would have been such a significant upgrade acting wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit too much.
Yeah, it might have actually been jarring.
Unbelievably so. Yeah.
At their current rate, though, Daisy Ridley will be 60 years older by the time this film comes out,
Right.
so they wouldn't need Helen Mirren. It'll be the same film, just with her natural aged.
Do they
So
say
true.
when they're going to complete this, or when do they plan to release it?
Never.
Yeah, we hope.
I mean, I would assume that that's going to be one of. It's definitely not going to be the first one that they even talk about filming. I would assume that the first one would be the Mandalorian tie-in one.
Yeah.
Here you go, folks. A man of few words. The listening fats. The Palpatines won.
They did,
Yeah,
yeah.
they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the setup of the Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine is currently in her as well, because she killed him just like he told her to. So that they won in every conceivable way. She is a Palpatine. She's possessed by Palpatine. She's buried the Skywalker legacy, and she's stolen their name to make everyone think that she's a hero. So this is the beginning of the next galactic empire. Is Rey taking the role of old creamy Sheev?
She stole the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't. Well, she didn't
She
steal
stole somebody's lightsaber. Who was it?
it. Luke's.
Well,
What else
technically,
did
it's
she steal?
Anakin's saber.
Yeah, it is.
If it wasn't nailed down, she took it, didn't she?
Tea leaving.
Yeah, it
now.
wasn't hers. She took it. She stole it. She stole it. It wasn't hers.
If they want to make this film, I'm serious, right? I'm not really serious, but I'm serious. If they want to make this film, really, they should get her and make her look as hot as shit. Seriously, the looks wise.
Hot as
And
shit.
then all these men will come to the cinema and watch it. So that's all I can say. You know what I mean? They made her dress like a boy in the last one, didn't they? She just looked awful in the last one. And in fact, they shouldn't be really making this movie because it's absolute shit, isn't it? It's a shit idea. Nobody cares
Yeah,
about this
it's-
character at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, any amount of love that the character could have possibly had is
Yeah.
long since dissipated since the end
Yeah.
of Rise of Skywalker.
I do like Daisy though. I actually met her once, and she's alright. She's a sweet girl.
She doesn't seem like. I mean, like as a person, she seems fine. Like like whenever I saw her in interviews, she generally seemed like excited about the character. She just was never given anything to work with. It
Yeah.
wasn't really her fault at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah.
It isn't her fault at all. It's not her fault. So
She
Whose fault
unfortunately
was it?
was saddled with this terrible,
Yeah.
terribly written role that she's gonna probably have to. She's probably gonna have to do some significant film to break away from it.
But how would you? I mean, I wonder how she feels really, because there's no way no one could look at the last 3 Star Wars movies and think it was brilliant, apart from if you come from a mental home. But
Or
you
you're
know,
okay,
do you know what I
Johnson.
mean? So yeah. So, but how, like for instance, Boyega, he's been very vocal about how bad he was treated in the Star Wars films.
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine. So
There you
basically, Daisy knows this, right? So when they said to her, "Oh, we're going to make a film with you. Could you come out to the crowd, whatever? Come to England, and blah blah blah." I wonder how she felt standing there in front of the crowd, knowing that one of her friends got done royally, and the last 3 films were absolute shit. I wonder how she felt, because there's no way she can't feel that, surely.
She
I
definitely is
don't-
feeling that.
I don't know that she really I don't know how bright she is, in other words, so that
No,
you can
she's
find.
very
Oh, Lord.
You can well no you
I
can
agree,
find clips
yeah.
of you can find clips of
Yeah.
her sitting next to Mark Hamill in interviews, for example, where
Lord.
Mark Hamill is overtly telling us what's coming.
Yeah.
There's one where he and Daisy Ridley are sitting and he's talking about Luke's character, and he uses words like this is a profound mistake, this is a terrible misunderstanding, and he's talking about how shit it is, and then she's sort of sitting there going and then the interviewer turns to her and she chimes in with something like, I think it'll be really interesting to
Yeah, but
see
it's
what
a
people will
movie
think
about a
when the
movie.
film is out. It's like,
But
okay,
Ben, you have
great
to
one.
understand, right, that this is her first, one
Here
of
we
her
go,
first
folks. Here we go.
big movies that she's involved with, and also she's very inexperienced as well.
Yeah.
So what is she going to say? Do you know, she has no experience in dealing with this stuff, so she's going to sit there with Mark Hamill saying a lot of stuff that makes sense. And what is she? When I ask her a question, she's going to, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And she makes it up on the spot. So
True.
you
I mean,
know.
I didn't want to sound unduly harsh because I don't think I think
Screw
most actors are dumb as shit. So she's
Yes.
not necessarily going to be exceptional, even if she isn't particularly bright. I'm just not sure that actors have the awareness of anybody other than themselves to really give a damn if, say, John Boyega comes out years later and says, yeah they kind of screwed me over. Is she even going to register that when she's so desperately trying to forge a career for herself and
That's
it's
what
not
I'm
going
saying.
particularly
That's
well?
reason why she couldn't say anything, because she's desperately wants to forge a career. She's a competent actress, definitely a competent actress. But what could you do in a situation like that? Because you're under contract, right? I mean, obviously, Mark Hamill doesn't give a shit, but she's very young, she's inexperienced. What is she going to say? Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of.
Mark Hamill.
I'm not
also knew that
defending
this
her or
was-
anything.
Mark Hamill also knew this was the end of the road for him. Like,
Yeah.
he
He's
once
been
he,
advertising video games, hasn't he, this week?
Yeah, he is.
yeah,
But he
like-
also cared about the character.
He
And
did.
I get,
There you go.
and,
Well said,
and Ian's
Christina.
right. This is her first role, and obviously it's impossible to care about Rey because she isn't a character. But Mark Hamill didn't just think that he was out of it after this. He also had thoughts about what the character meant and what the character represented, which is a trait of an actor from a very different generation. You can listen to Leonard Nimoy talk about what Spock was and how they conceptualized Spock and what he's supposed to represent and the ideas he had about the character. And you think this is a man who is fully aware, A, of what the character is as written, but also, what underpins the character, what inspiration are people taking from it, what should they be taking from it.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think any actor of the modern generation is particularly concerned with questions like that. I don't really think
He's
Daisy
also-
Ridley's exceptional there.
He's
But
also very keen on drone bombing Russians as well, isn't he?
Yes.
Plus, Ray, if I remember correctly, Ray is Spanish for king.
It is.
So there you go, folks.
No. It's Spanish for that's Rex, isn't it?
No, I think
That's
Rex
think
is
it
Latin, I
Latin.
think.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Thing is,
Rayar
like,
is royal.
I'm,
so
I'm sure
sure
it's king.
I met her before she got cast in Star
It
Wars.
was
And
there.
I've only met her once, and the conversation I had with her was quite pleasant. She's a nice girl and all that. But that's what I'm saying. It's a situation where what are you going to do? You want to get on in Hollywood. What are you going to say? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to do? So anyway, I don't know. I'm not defending her or anything, but that's what I think the situation I think she was in.
Plus, if
Here you go,
sign to
uninspired.
Disney, once you sign to Disney, they own your soul. Let's be honest.
Nah, it's king in Spanish. That's what I said.
Yes, and Disney Star Wars in Greek is "this sucks." So,
I will say,
Well, that's actually a universal translation.
yeah.
if I may, uninspired reviewer, would you be? I can't speak. Would you be available one Sunday to come on one of these?
You're inviting everyone on, aren't you, Ian?
No, I like uninspired reviewers stuff. I like so.
I like
just
it
put
too.
a link in
I
the
like
chat
it
and
too.
see what happens. Someone tell me.
that turns into chaos.
I've done that before, never again. Here you go, Mr. Luca for £2. That's real money. Jedi Survivor Thoughts, Lord Cord.
I only started it on Friday, and I've been trying not to get too far into it because I mean to stream it at some point. So
Is
I'm
it
not
working properly?
all that far in. I got it on PS5, so it seems to be. There's some
okay.
slightly
gonna do a
janky CG
slide,
work
but
that goes
took it out.
into it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the PC version's like. Some of it does feel a little bit rushed in terms of its cinematics, but a lot of it I think is just overly ambitious in terms of its cinematics, and they didn't really have the time to finesse bits and pieces. In terms of story, I'm not far enough in to judge that, although the beginning, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it, you are beginning with a heist mission on Coruscant at the height of the Empire as a Jedi. And you get to spend a long time down there, which seems a little bit implausible given that, you're a Jedi on Coruscant under the Empire and the Purge is still ongoing. So there's a couple of things like that. The gameplay seems solid enough so far. I'm not minding it, but I haven't got far enough in to form like a full impression. I'll stream it if I can at some point this week.
I think Appion, who we've not seen for a week or two, he was streaming it today. It looked pretty good, actually.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. It does look
quite
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Well, the first, I haven't played this one, but the first one has a very cinematic feel to it. It actually even has like a cinematic mode where you can't fail. So it's not really designed. It's designed as in a very strange way that you could either play it as a hyper challenging game, or if a complete casual, you could just fly right through it. So it's a very
it has a very very games journalist mode. Which is just for people who essentially want to skip over gameplay and get straight to cutscenes.
Donny Pearson. Hello, Donny. I love Daisy Ridley, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, Daisy's all right. I just think she's had the shit end of the stick, which is a shame, really.
Yeah. And
Sorry, the
listen,
shit end of the lightsaber.
Yeah. She got a crappy role. That's, and
She did. Then again, all the others also got crappy roles, and they all thought that their future is away from Disney and away from Star Wars to carve out careers for themselves doing other things. John Boyega's been in some fairly big films. A fair few of the others were already quite well established, like Oscar Isaac, and Daisy Ridley hasn't really had the work coming in. I don't know if that's because she's the face of Star Wars failure. I don't think it can just be that. I think she might be a competent-ish actor. I just don't think she is as naturally good as any of her co-stars.
I think it's
agree. Yeah.
Did Oscar Isaac said he would only return to Star Wars if he needed another house. Wing on his mansion?
I think it was another house was the quote, but yes.
Oh, okay. Here you go, folks. Smilex. Out of 10. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, it's for me. What would Brownie give Daisy? Out of 10. I'd give her 1. Moving on.
Which one it may be. That's the question.
Not quite as good when, Ruin's not here. So anyway, okay. So shall we move on? Are we ever going to see this, do you think, folks?
I think we are.
Oh, God, I hope.
Yeah. I think of the 3 that were announced, I believe this is one of the ones that will get made.
Yeah, I think
it does seem like it's a Kathleen Kennedy
would it be
forced through.
KK, she knows she has to do this to save face.
Yes.
Scenario.
I think this one and the Filoni one will probably.
The
Filoni one will be interesting because The Mandalorian is not performing well. I think that might depend much more on the reception of Ahsoka and other series in between. So like when The Walking Dead was hugely popular, they planned a whole film trilogy with Rick Grimes, and then The Walking Dead tanked and they canned the films. I wouldn't be so surprised if the Filoni film went the same way, which means you'll have to see a very, very effective Ahsoka film series, and probably a Mandalorian revival to show that the interest is still there for the film. So that's sort of the mid-probability one. The most probable one is this one, and the least probable one is the one that's set back in the time of the first Jedi or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, the James Mangold movie.
I would actually say that if anything happened with the Filoni one, it would become the first Disney Plus original Star Wars movie.
Oh, it could do.
That's what I think would
happen.
It's sad to think that might just be the future for Star Wars, straight to streaming.
Yeah. Poor Daisy. We say that every time. Poor Daisy.
And poor Star Wars.
It's amazing how it was such a big part of my life growing up.
Not anymore, it's not.
Yeah, now it's like I just hear something, I'm like, yep, that's it.
For all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, along.
Coincidentally, this Critical Drinker tweeted this just before we came on.
This is the day they all got conned.
Pure coincidence. 9 years ago, yesterday, that's Saturday. Can you believe it, folks?
Yeah.
I love how Carrie Fisher's just passed out in the background.
As usual.
And Boyega thought it would be nice to come in a suit or a tie, whether he's got a tie on there, isn't he?
Tim Possible there on the bottom.
Yeah.
Hello, Timmy.
But that's the thing, you see, that they got conned with
R2D2
the different script there. They got conned with a different script. and then they changed the script. So
None of
Here
them
you
look
go.
especially
was.
convinced by it either. That bottom right picture in particular, both of them are wearing
Right.
expressions like,
What?
really?
Right.
This really?
actually, I think it was a synopsis they had there, or treatment.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a
Yeah.
full
Treatment.
script.
No.
What if they're
Yeah.
reading contracts?
Yeah,
Right.
probably. No, that's on a one-to-one basis.
You know what? I
contract,
take
so
that
that's-
back. That probably is the full script.
That's the NDA.
No,
It could be
it's
the full
probably-
script. So the beginning
yeah.
of the script is the Force Awakens, and then the middle is just go watch A New Hope, and then
Yeah.
the end is the end.
No
for
I was
hope.
gonna say they literally didn't have to. They were just like,
No hope.
I think it was a meeting, and I think they were reading the treatment of it, and it was all wrong. And they got them under contract, and then they changed it halfway, and then we ended up what we ended up with in the end.
More like
That's
a
what-
maltreatment.
that's what happened.
Quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, as Mark Hamill would have walked if he knew what the script was going to be. He would have definitely walked.
Okay. That was a moment where everybody who loved Star Wars looked at that and thought, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I had hope when before the movie came out. You know, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. You know, we get Star Wars back, and I was excited and everything, and
Marvel
then it
was
just
still at its peak.
yeah, exactly. And then it just went downhill from there. You're just like, I mean, because I don't know about you guys, but after I saw that first movie, I was just like, well, that was okay. I was like, it was fun to revisit the universe, but I was like, I mean, it was okay.
I was perplexed when I came
I was
out.
expecting it to get better next.
Yes, same here. Here you go. Disgusting film. R2D2 in a crate is genuine foreshadowing here. Very good. Very good.
Arguably, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel if it wasn't for that movie. If you want to do like causality, because the only reason I found a lot of the guys that I followed that inspired me and such was because I was wandering around a store after watching the movie, just being like, "Why did I not like that? I need someone to form my thoughts for me." I couldn't figure it out. Like I was just like, I was like shell shocked. I was like, that should have been way better than it was.
Yeah, I wasn't fond of it even at the time. I remember coming out of the cinema thinking, I think that was depressingly safe, but I understand the reasons why. Like, I know why they played it so very safe. They're doing a soft reboot, kind of. All of this stuff worked back in the day. So to re-establish Star Wars in the forefront of people's minds, they are playing from the familiar hymn sheet. That's not really good, but at least it's sort of understandable. But it all does hinge on what you then build off from that. And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
I was completely confused when I came out of the cinema, and I was the only one that said I have a problem with this film, but I can't put my finger on it. And all my friends, my cousins, and everything,
Cheers, Melvin.
they were like, "Oh, it was really good," blah 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 blah. And I thought, no, this is just not. It's not. Star
Yeah,
Wars.
I feel like you had the exact same experience as me because the people I was with were like saying how much they loved it, and I think it was that moment that I realized that like my understanding of what a film is supposed to be versus what the expectations of most people are very different.
Do you remember how much merchandise was on sale and people were buying it on the shelves?
Yeah, I was one of those people.
All those helmets, things, and bags, and all sorts
Yeah.
of
Model
things.
kits and everything.
Do you know there's
Yeah.
one bit in the film that really made me go, this is not right, is when Kylo Ren takes his mask off and starts smashing up the place when he gets angry. And I thought to myself, is this Star Wars? You know, this guy's having a
Emo
tantrum.
Wars.
Is this
Yeah,
Star Wars?
emo Vader. Yeah.
I was like, what? Anyway,
I mean, if there's one thing I could kind of defend, at least like Anakin did sort of do that stuff in the prequel trilogy, but like that's not the thing you want to really pull from.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, that's not a high benchmark. Really.
Yeah.
And it doesn't match either, really, because the idea for the character wasn't terrible, which is that this is somebody who is straining under the weight of expectation. He knows who he's related to. He feels that burden of having to live up to what Darth Vader was, and he struggles with that. And that's not a bad character premise, except for the fact that more than a decade has passed since Darth Vader died and was redeemed, certainly in the eyes of Luke. That's a good character premise if Vader didn't have his redemptive moment. But the film has all of the sequel trilogy relies on you basically pretending that nothing happened at all between the end of Return of the Jedi and the beginning of The Force Awakens.
Well,
and so everyone is picking up from
Solo was a bad dad.
Also,
Yes.
right, what horrible
husband.
casting.
Yeah.
They cast someone really, no disrespect to the actor, really not very good looking to be Han Solo and Princess Leia's son. Do you know what I mean? Immediately when I looked at it, I think,
Yeah,
Well, he's a
What
good
the
actor, though.
hell?
yeah,
He's a good actor.
but you'd be surprised how many women find him attractive. Like my mom thinks that Adam Driver is attractive. I'm like, really? He's got a goofy nose and some big ass ears. You find him
What would your
attractive?
mother say?
When I talk to her, listen, that young man is so good looking. I would.
Was this
date
before
him.
or after the shirtless scene?
This was before. Well, this is
Okay.
when. What was it that he was recently in?
He's
that
a
she was
good
just-
boy.
Well, I
was in
showed. I told her
65.
that he was going to be Mr.
In the
Fantastic, and she
He was in
all
the
like,
Girls.
Yeah. She's no. It was after
65.
Star Wars, but it was.
Oh, right.
I can't remember what it was, but she's like, listen, he's good looking, and if I was younger, I would date him. And I was like, seriously, he's not. I was
So
like,
basically, Adam Driver is the guy that your grandmother says you should go date when you're like 16. Like,
sure, yeah.
But you know, he was in a show called The Girls, and he was the ugly boyfriend in the show. So I'm just saying, what genius from the Star Wars casting that just went, okay, let's just cast him as Han Solo's son. The Han Solo's son.
Looks skip a generation, and also women have incredibly weird taste. So just on that, the 65 comment, I don't know if anyone's actually bothered to watch 65. Adam Driver did his best. The film was just so bad.
That
It
seems
was,
to be
but I
his
enjoyed
thing.
it. I enjoyed that 65 film. It was stupid, but it was fun. I had fun watching it. So.
I'm waiting for the sequel, 69.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
And
Directed by Ian David Diaz.
shall we move?
Well, I just wanted to say one thing that the only thing I had an issue. I don't care about the looks portion. I guess it is the looks. I don't care that he's unattractive. He just didn't look like either of the actors. That was my problem.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And as I said, you know, the whole of this film I was perplexed when I came out of the cinema. I was like, I couldn't make up my mind whether I liked it or not. And also, right,
all
I
right.
was so. I bet everyone in the cinema thought of this. You know the bit where Baeg was taking on Kylo Ren in the forest. I was thinking, where's Luke? Luke's going to come out. He's going to beat this guy's ass. And he didn't freaking turn up.
Well,
I couldn't
the
believe
doubly
it.
annoying thing is that the previous topic was this Rey film where she's teaching two Jedi and helping to rebuild the Order, which is the film Luke should have got. The film that The Force Awakens should have been was Luke teaching Kylo Ren and one other new character, probably you can have it as Rey if you want to become Jedi as part of the new Jedi Order, and it shows Kylo Ren's or Ben Solo's fall, and that sets you up for the rest of your trilogy. You don't skip all of that and just say, well, this is just the way it is now. That's such a wasted opportunity that they're now, more than a decade later, coming back to it and saying, yeah, maybe we should take that as the premise for a film. So, fuck you. You should have done it way back when.
And on that bombshell, let's move on.
Move on to Star Wars again.
Yes, this was released this weekend for the uninitiated. Here we go.
No.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, 40th anniversary. Who's
Those
been
teddy
to see
bears.
it?
I wish I could have.
bears.
I wish I could have went and seen it.
I saw it in the cinema when it was released. I
Yeah.
thought it was okay, but I was a bit disappointed with it.
Same.
What?
Yeah,
This is my favorite Star Wars.
we
well, that's
talking about
because
the
that's the
original
first
time
one you
you
saw,
saw it?
right?
It is the first one I saw, so
Exactly.
it is my favorite. But I love this movie so much; it's like ridiculous.
You just like the. You just.
By
I'm a
far my
fan, don't you?
least favorite of the original trilogy, and actually I rank it lower than two of the prequels.
Really?
Yeah.
Which two? I'm assuming one's Revenge of the Sith. What's
Revenge
the
of the
other one?
Sith, and because I'm weird, I quite like Attack of the Clones.
Oh, I'm in the same boat as you.
Is that the
I
second
actually
one?
enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
second one.
Yeah, I kind of. Yeah.
Do you know what? The
I
crime,
just had an assumption it was going to be Phantom Menace, but I was
ba-
right.
basically the crime they did in Return of the Jedi, I'll never forgive them for this, was that Han Solo was a true hero in the first one, and he was totally invested in the second one. He was a hero. He was masculine. And then when it comes to Return of the Jedi, he's a freaking clown, for God's sakes. I'm like, this is not Han Solo from Empire or Star Wars. This guy's a clown. So that's one of the things I didn't
Yeah,
like about
there's
Return
huge
of the Jedi.
tonal differences between this and An Empire Strikes Back. I mean, this is the point at which George Lucas has started to embrace the idea that it's really popular with kids, and to please kids, you need to appeal to kids, omitting the fact that the last two were also
Gary Kurtz had
incredibly
left as well.
popular with kids without having to directly appeal to them. So it still has enough of the originals darker feel and tone. It's Luke's payoff and the end of Vader's arc is well
Yeah.
worth watching, and it's what makes it still a brilliant film. It's just that you have to sort of ignore all of the bits with the Ewoks, and the fact that Han Solo is kind of a bit clowny in this one.
When do we get the 40th anniversary of Caravan of Courage?
No idea.
Never.
The people who reined Lucas in, Gary Kurtz, Irving Kershner, weren't around for this one.
To tell the truth, George Lucas he stepped back from this film as well because he was still going through a messy divorce and he was fighting for stuff that he owned from his ex-wife and stuff that he was still going through. It started Empire and it carried on through, I think, halfway through this movie when things got settled. So he wasn't really invested in Return of the Jedi. Thank God he wasn't, because look at the prequels. He was totally invested in them and they were awful, weren't they? So it was down to the director, Richard McQuan, and the writer.
There you go, Smilex. Gary
He left
Kurtz
after the first one. Yeah.
due to his disagreements over the script. He said it was more like a toy advert than a movie. Yeah,
it wasn't. Well, it wasn't because of that. It was because he found God, apparently. So that's why he.
Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, he found Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah.
So, I do agree. Like, Return of the Jedi is kind of a weird case because it does have like moments that are just amazing. Like
it's a film of two halves, I think.
Yeah, well, that is true. Actually, it does feel like two different movies that just got mashed together. But like, for instance, my favorite lightsaber fight is the one in this one. So like, I feel like it carries so much emotion at the end of it, but it does jar with like the emotional setting and everything that's happening in the Death Star versus what's going on down below it with the Ewoks. There is a jarring difference in tone.
Yeah.
Well, didn't the Death Star just fall down onto the planet?
Yes, yeah, it didn't blow up, it just fell.
So happily, all of the Ewoks are dead now, so that's
Palpatine survived.
I tell you what's amazing about this film is the special effects, right? I'm not only talking about the scout walkers and the floating thing that goes through the forest. I'm talking about that scene at the ending where they have to fly into the Death Star and hit that thing in the middle.
Yeah,
I mean, to do that with models and a remote control rig, motion control rig, that must have been incredibly hard. Must have been. I mean, the skill that you have to actually do that on blue screen in those days was blue screen. I mean, they did an amazing job.
I think up until Independence Day, that the shot where you have all the TIE fighters and everything coming from the Death Star towards the Rebellion was the most complicated shot.
It was, and they made a mistake, didn't they?
They did up until Independence Day. Yeah, you could see through one of the missed one of the maps.
So, but I mean, you know, as I said, right, there's some really nice moments in Return of the Jedi, but there's some really dark moments in there too. But I still like the film better than the prequels and this atrocity that we got recently. So
yeah. I agree with that last comment. The space battle in this one is my favorite space battle. It's so good. I love it. I love it so much.
I think we're going to do a review of this week, hopefully.
Oh, good.
Have you ever noticed that? Is it Wedge? Wedge is always
Wednesday, folks.
Almost complimenting people, isn't he? When he's in a battle, when he was in Empire Strikes Back, he was like, "Good shot, Red One," and in this one, he's complimenting everyone.
Blue, red, green. Akbar, it's a trap.
I think that has to do with the fact that Wedge kind of like he basically ended up growing out of his original intention, so they had to try and up what he was, and they just didn't really have a way to do it.
No,
there's a few like that. So there's General Veers in Empire Strikes Back, who's in 2 scenes. Was so popular that he ended up getting, I think he got like pride of place in some of the tie-in expanded universe novels, because fans just they were so in love with every single aspect of Star Wars that even non-entity side characters really would be elevated way beyond what the author George Lucas would ever have imagined they would. And so you get like Veers has his own stories in the expanded universe, other side characters that you wouldn't even remember the names of in the original films. They also get it because fans of the day thought that every single aspect of all of these films is so magically brilliant that we want to see as much of this universe as possible.
Here you go,
just
folks,
compare that to now.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Lord, I interrupted. The wonderful Andy Maston. Hello, Andy. Leaving to see this in 15 minutes.
Oh, enjoy.
Lucky.
Get in.
But you know what, right? After saying all that, there is more great moments in this film than there are bad moments in this film, and for
Mhm.
that, I would recommend going to see it in the cinema. I
Yes.
really would. Yeah.
Is it just this weekend it's on, or is it on for a week? Do we
I
know?
don't know.
Usually they just do it for the weekend because a lot of times these like limited releases don't garner too much. I mean, Star Wars is a little different, but I know mine does a lot of these things, like the Fathom events they call them, and it's like every year I go through it and see which movies are up for like 30th, 40th anniversaries and stuff. See which ones that I would want to see.
Right.
Okay, shall we move on?
Well,
Guess what? Tomorrow.
more Star Wars. Luke
Okay,
Skywalker.
obviously it was released on Friday,
Mm.
and literally within an hour or so, couple of hours, this was trending in the UK. So I just thought I'd put these in.
Mm.
So it just shows people want the OG stuff, don't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, people really want the true OG stuff. A lot of times, there's a lot of people who cannot stand what the like the special editions did, and the extra special editions, whatever you want to call the ones where they added even more.
Yeah.
Like I know there's the whole despecialized thing. So like people really just want the old stuff.
Yeah, it was one of the criticisms I have heard of the Return of the Jedi version in cinemas at the moment is that the special edition stuff they've put in, because the CGI these days is a bit dated, it actually looks worse than the rest of the film. It looks like those DVD menus you used to get in sort of the mid-2000s, and not as good as the old practical model-based effects. So there is that. The only other observation is that one of the very, very irritating and depressing things about the sequels is that they do kind of make Return of the Jedi a pointless film. Like, what is the point in seeing that? If you believe that all of these things are part of the Star Wars story, what did Return of the Jedi actually accomplish? Nothing,
Well,
practically.
Well, Palps won.
Yeah, he died, but no, he's not dead. Vader is dead, I guess, but then...
Here you go, folks. Garth Knights for $5. Hello, Garth. Y'all have any good advice as to where I can acquire some despecialized original trilogy discs? Nowhere, probably.
I know people are working. They did the first one, didn't they? And they did. I don't know if they're still working on a second one, but there's a guy that just went through loads of different laser discs and VHSs and stuff, upscale them so they can get the original Star Wars back. You know about that, right, guys?
Is it Addy Wan?
No, it's this
it's somebody
other
else.
guy. Yeah, who basically was fixated on the original version of Star Wars, so he kind of got loads of stuff together and tried to make the original Star Wars back with loads of different things, like from Super 8 film to laser discs and stuff like that. And he achieved it. He made he got the original back. So there you go.
I still don't know why they don't have the original. I know it's probably
just
down
on
to-
another note, guys, has anyone seen that Star Trek thing made by
Yes.
Roddenberry's company, Archive?
Yes.
Do you know what?
Not.
I've been told that the guy that plays Spock in this
It's
in
an
this
actor.
version is an actor, and it's not CGI; it's makeup.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
I'm like, what?
I know.
I'm like, what? That looks like Leonard Nimoy. What the hell? So yeah, it is amazing. If you haven't seen it, guys, you should watch it.
What is it called?
It's called 765875.
Resurrection or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very
regeneration.
Very impressive. Yeah, I mean, the set, everything looked exactly where it was left
Yeah,
off.
here you go.
didn't
Regeneration.
It's basically about Spock's grief for the death of.
Well, there are flaws in it, but we won't go into that.
Yeah. It's great though. It's terrific.
It is, but it could be better. But anyway, okay. So we'll move on.
Can you just say move laterally going forward?
No, moving on, mate. Okay, so guess what? Still more Return of the Jedi. It is kind of bittersweet. It is estimated Return of the Jedi will earn $5 million in the US this weekend to go straight into Kathleen Kennedy's film projects.
Well, good for her. Okay.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm
Stream
going to
killer.
try and catch it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to catch it. You know, if it was the original version without it being touched with all the CGI stuff, then I would have went out of my way to watch it. But if I see it, I see it.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
one with Sebastian Shaw taken out,
Yeah,
isn't it? Which
yeah.
is, for me,
That whole that was always so jarring.
it's
to
not
me.
good.
It literally takes him at probably his like most evil moment and makes him the ghost, the Force ghost.
Well, how would Luke Skywalker know what the younger Darth Vader looked like? That's my
Right.
logic.
Yeah.
So it's just
Honestly,
one tweak
yeah.
too many for me, George.
And every
Honestly,
other
the-
Force Ghost appears in the form they were in when they died. So you
Right.
don't get Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan appearing as a Force Ghost.
Right,
You
yeah.
get him as Alec Guinness, which makes sense. Yoda, when he turns up as a Force Ghost in the sequels, is likewise the same age. Luke appears as a Force Ghost in exactly the same manner. Qui-Gon does in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, though we would like to forget that. It was just, I think that was just George Lucas saying, well, look, we want to drum up as much possible attention for these relatively new films as we can. So here's the guy who plays Anakin in that one. This is the one who recently murdered children and not the one who regrets it.
To me, the worst culprit in the of all the CG they did is the Jabba's palace.
Oh
with
my
the-
God. Don't
that's
fucking hell. No.
I can't even with that scene.
Yeah.
What was that?
I agree.
Yeah,
the
but
Jabba's palace scene where
With
they,
size noodles. And,
yeah, but you
and
had Carrie Fisher in that bathing suit, so
yes,
Yeah,
but
she
even
was-
that can't distract you from the terrible musical
suppose.
performance in that scene.
yeah, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I've only
yeah.
seen this special edition once.
You're
I've
lucky.
seen Return of the Jedi hundreds of times on VHS back in the good old days.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
That's
they
so
changed the
good.
music as well in the palace, didn't they? As well.
Well,
They
so,
did, they
so what they
did.
did was they left the original portion of it and then they added to it essentially. And it's just terrible. It quite possibly is the worst usage of CGI ever.
Yeah, plus the song is not better. The song in the original one, I thought it was cool and catchy,
Yeah.
and then the second one, it was like a pop song, but like, with a weird language in it. It was just not as good.
Also, it's really hard to believe that the Rancor was a puppet, and
It's
it
a
was-
puppet.
Yeah.
and it looked so good.
It did. It looked great.
Here you go, Smilex. I think not Brian. This is his worst bit as well. The worst tweak in this edition is Vader's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite literally lifted right out of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So, not recommending it. Okay. Never mind. One tweak too many, George.
I
Shall
mean,
we move on?
if you just want it for the like experience of going to see it in theaters, it's the only chance you get to ever see it
Yeah.
in theaters.
Okay.
Do
possible.
it. Just be aware that there's
Yeah.
going to be that stuff in there.
Yeah,
I
have to be
agree.
aware. Also,
He has a really weird relationship with this as well.
Yeah.
In that George Lucas once signed, was one of the major signatories to a letter to the, is it the Library of Congress, where they store all of the great sort of artistic
Yes.
productions produced by
Yes.
people. And they were talking about, redoing old black and white films and colorizing them. And George Lucas was one of those who led the charge against colorizing old black and white films because he believed that it would distort the original vision and that these are works of art that stand of their time and should be preserved in the form in which they were first shown. This is the guy who subsequently goes and changes every single one of his films to insert random seeming fleshlight
Sheer
aliens.
double fucking
It
standards.
is. I mean, the only way you can reconcile that is if George Lucas says, and there is an argument I guess you can make on his behalf, which is that the changes he is making are made A, by him, and B, to bring it further into line with what his original vision was, but that he wasn't able to do at the time. I don't think that's a very good argument, but it is a
But,
qualifier.
That is
Also-
the exact argument that
He
he
also he did it because he wanted a reason for people to come and see it again. So if there was a new effect in there, people go, I want to go and see it for the new
and
effect.
finances.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Close Encounters. When they re-released Close Encounters, the stipulation for Spielberg was we want to see inside the mothership, and Spielberg didn't want to do it, but they were going to give him a shitload of money. So he said,
he
"Okay,
did
fine,
it.
I'll do it." He did
And
it.
Spielberg has
So,
more recently than George Lucas come out against exactly that kind of thing as well.
E.T..
But both of them are probably the most famous directors around for going back and changing their old stuff, to the point that there's a South Park episode where they try and steal
Yeah,
the original
that's a
Indiana
great
Jones to stop
episode.
them from doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's a great episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will move on.
Again.
We will move one step to the left.
Okay, this popped up on my feed. I just thought I'd throw it in from Time Magazine, 1983. Star Wars 3: Return of the Jedi.
You know what, guys? I can't tell you what the feeling was when Star Wars got released in England and Empire and this film. It was I can only way I can describe it is as it was a magical moment, even with Return of the Jedi, when Return of the Jedi actually got released in England for me anyway. And it's a shame that I don't feel that way about Star Wars anymore. It's a real
People
shame.
were pumped for this.
Yeah. I remember watching. There used to be this show called what's the show called, Ian? Where they used to, it was like Barry
Clapperboard.
Norman's Clapperboard. They showed a clip from Empire Strikes Back, and as a kid, your
Yes.
mind exploded. You were like, I've got to see this film, you know. And I don't feel like that anymore about films anymore.
No,
It's-
I mean,
it's
this is from back
annoying.
in the day when the cover of Time magazine was a huge deal. I mean,
Deal,
it was
yeah.
like, the cover of Time was reserved for the most culturally significant things around at the time. Now it's a non-entity publication. I just like that the subheading there is that George Lucas and friends wrap it all up. So, yeah, how did that go?
For now.
Yeah. Still, as I said, it was a magical time for cinema and for me as a movie goer. And I know Matt Cat probably wouldn't understand it, but when Star Wars was released
Especially
in
Matt
England,
Cat.
no, I'm just saying because you guys are young, right? When Star Wars was released in England, especially in London, it was like a bomb hit London. Everywhere you looked, it was Star Wars. Everywhere, TV, on the radio, posters everywhere. It was like
Entertainment USA.
it was crazy, absolutely crazy. So
It's another interesting aspect of that, and it shows how big Star Wars is that the biggest political event for about 5, if not 10 years, is reserved for a little tab thing at the top right corner, which is the Reagan administration's withdrawal from Lebanon. And that was huge at the time. That was a significant American military defeat and embarrassment, and it was the front pages of every news publication, I believe, at the time. And the fact that, that this is just a film that's come out, but that's the thing that takes front and center is how big Star Wars is. You can't allow some piddling current affairs thing, important though it is, to distract from this way more important cultural icon, which is what Star Wars is. And it goes to what Ian was saying. This is a time when the whole world stops for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that was, before I was alive, and to the extent that even the prequels, when they first came out, that there was an aspect of that still. When the Phantom Menace came out, you had all the shots, the audiences queuing for miles to go and see it, and the cheers as soon as the intro music plays, or even just as a long time ago appears on screen and everyone erupts into applause. And it builds off of, 16 years later, I think it is. And it still has this immense cultural value. And now you've got to the point where like your average given episode of The Mandalorian pulls fewer views than a given YouTube video does.
But this is,
folks.
this is how powerful it was, right? So when you got the soundtrack, especially when they reprinted the soundtrack, it had the 20th Century Fox fanfare before the actual music started on the soundtrack. That's how significant Star Wars was. Do you know what I mean? Even that was on
Paul,
the soundtrack.
is it Mayoff? Remember when people used to camp out in line?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's supposed to be Pull Me Off. Pull Me Off.
What's Listening Fat say? The
good old days, yes.
But I've said this story before, and I'll say it again. When I went to see Star Wars, right, the queue went round the block 5 times, and they had police on horseback to keep the crowd on the pavement because they were spilling out and 6 policemen on horseback were pushing the crowd back. That's how big Star Wars was in London, and that was only the second day it was released. So.
Isn't there there's a Simpsons episode which is set, there's a flashback to the premiere of Empire Strikes Back, I think it is, which shows the huge queues going into the film, and Homer walks out having been in first and says, I can't believe that Vader's Luke's father. And the entire queue is just, that's a funny episode.
Smilex in the chat says, police should have used Banthas.
yeah.
Okay, so let's not get bogged down the good old days yet.
You sure you don't have one more Star Wars slide in there?
This popped in the feed before we came on. Terry Matalis, big fan of Russell T Davis. And apparently they're going to throw an Easter egg in the new season of Doctor Who as a tribute to Picard season 3.
Oh well, ruin two birds with one stone. Why
Why
not?
don't you? Yeah. Is it a clip from Picard saying "I love you, Data"? Is it that?
I love you, Data.
Yeah, that bit. Oh dear.
I wonder what it could be.
I don't
Jerry
care.
Ryan, the new Doctor, that'd be great.
Don't care.
Don't care.
Don't care.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Are you
Yeah, I
sure?
mean,
We
No,
really don't care about Doctor Who.
whatever you think it's going to be, it will underwhelm. That's all
Exactly.
you need.
Exactly. So it's more of the RTD hype machine. Everything is best as ever, and yeah, it's just getting annoying at this point.
There's been a bit of a love in between them on Twitter. I think Russell T Davies complimented Picard 3, and Terry Matalas said to get any kind of praise for the guy who wrote whatever given episode it was. But he has also been slightly less sensible on Twitter. Didn't he? He posted that thing of, I don't remember what film it's from. It's Elizabeth Olsen saying something like, people think it's cool to hate things, but it's not.
Oh, yeah,
you should shut up about the things you hate, which got a bit of a negative reaction, and deservedly so, because that's basically my career.
yeah.
Get in the bin.
Anybody see, Ian, you saw the little,
that was rubbish.
whatever that was.
10 seconds of a
The
teaser.
10-second kind of radio interference trailer clip thing in the UK for the Doctor
Yeah, it looks
with the
absolute-
backwards.
I don't know what's going on. I don't care anymore. I really
No.
don't. I'm just like Lee. I just don't give a
Moving
shit
on.
about Doctor Who anymore.
Are we moving on then? Is that what you're saying?
It's
Roll on.
destroyed
Roll on.
completely.
Okay, I think we're moving on, folks. Okay. This made me chuckle.
Yep.
He's got a pink gun.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're playing video games, Call of Duty, anything like that, the Red Cross calls on gamers to abide by real-world rules of war.
So when
I
you're
assume-
playing Call of Duty, if you get a kill streak that unlocks the nuke, you're not allowed to use it, because that's not the rules of war. What the fuck are these people
Is
talking
that
about?
against the Geneva Convention?
Aren't you killing people? I mean, no, we're morally killing. You know, I mean, it's
Nothing in the
doing it
Geneva
right.
Convention explicitly says that you're not allowed
Kill
to
streak.
teabag your enemy. So
It
Don't
really
get
is
the
stupid,
idea.
isn't it?
So stupid.
It really is stupid, isn't it? It's just
Are the,
incredibly stupid.
But are
Be
the
kind when you're killing people.
you know the actually the programmed opponents of the game? You know, the programmed adversaries.
The
Are they
NPCs.
programmed to obey the Geneva Convention too?
No, they're not even programmed to
Well, the logic
obey
falls
physics.
down then, doesn't it?
They're not even programmed to obey physics. They shoot you through walls and stuff that they
So
couldn't
you-
possibly see you. So,
So you play by the rules of the whatever it is, the Red Cross rules, and then you get killed. But, I mean, what's the point? You're not going to win the game if you
There
don't
you go.
play
Yeah.
R2B2, massively dumb, yeah.
So stupid.
I'm going through the ones they've actually listed,
Oh, here we
which
go,
is
folks.
it's tricky. I can see where they're going, but it just obviously doesn't work. So there are of course set rules of war. One of them, which is that prisoners of war, you have to protect prisoners of war. You can't be violent toward prisoners of war. They've translated this for video games as when an enemy is down, injured, and can't respond to you, you are not allowed to keep shooting them. The problem is in a video game that means someone's going to come along and revive them instantly, and they will kill you. So that's not really transferable. Civilians can't be attacked. So in this case, if bots don't shoot at you first, and if they're considered civilians, you're not allowed to shoot them. You have to protect civilian infrastructure. So yeah, you can't nuke people in Call of Duty anymore, or indeed shoot random buildings. Although Battlefield went for the whole destructible environment thing. So good luck with that. You have to heal everyone who's injured. I assume that means including your enemies. Again, good luck getting gamers to do that. There's a few more like it. It's just, I think it's a transparent attempt by them just to try and drum up publicity for themselves. It's not really meant to be taken seriously, but they weren't really aware of how hilarious the consequences would be.
It's a little bit silly, isn't it?
It's asinine.
I think people constantly underestimate the video game community and their ability to make memes and turn anything into a joke. So
Yeah.
Here you go, folks. The wonderful Garth Knight, big supporter of the channel, $5. Here we go. This like, subscribe, and share, folks. Brownie and the gang work hard to entertain us, folks.
Don't know about working hard, but there you go.
We try to entertain.
Struggling.
That might be the first time I've ever seen somebody pay to advertise for someone.
I know, I'm privileged. I will say, Garth, please send my regards to Michael. Hope he's doing well.
Michael
Okay,
Knight.
so
I was just thinking that.
before we move on, Lord, the last video game you played.
Playtesting Judas again, but otherwise it was Jedi Survivor.
Okay, Catty?
The last video game I played, I think it was Jack and Dexter on PS2. So it's been a while. It's been quite a while.
Dark Hour?
The Resident Evil 4 remake recently was the one that I played the most.
Probby, knowing you, it would be Pong.
Some shit on my phone.
It was what?
Some shit on my phone.
Some shit on your phone.
It wasn't Fruit Ninja, was it?
No, I'm currently playing.
That was a good game.
Some dodgy app. I don't know what it is. You build things with squares.
Mega Geek, last video game you played.
It was a long time ago. I think it was Galaxian when I was 16.
Nice.
That was it, really.
So the
Too
next
busy
one,
having a life.
next one on my list. If anyone ever played Star Wars TIE Fighter way back in the day,
Ooh, yeah.
Oh,
that was
yes.
like 1994, I think, wasn't
Yes.
it? Well,
Played all
there's
them,
there's a
fantastic.
total conversion of that which uses the X-Wing Alliance game engine, and that came out in I think late 90s, early 2000s. They've updated the
nice.
graphics. The entire game runs. It looks quite modern actually. It runs much more smoothly. It looks like a modern game. They've recreated every single mission. They've expanded everything, and you can get that. The mod itself is free as long as you've got X-Wing Alliance, which is about a $5. So I've bought a joystick. I've re-downloaded X-Wing Alliance,
nice.
which is
There you
actually
go.
one of my favorite Star Wars games, and
TIE
I'm going to be
Fighter,
downloading the
classic.
TIE Fighter Total Conversion mod. I recommend it. It
Oh.
looks amazing. If you're in doubt, look it up on YouTube.
Cool.
I'm trying to think the last game I probably played. Probably Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, or Halo 3.
What was that
One of
on then?
those.
Xbox?
Xbox 360.
All right.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I kind of bought some games and then never played them again. So, anyway, okay. So, moving on.
What a load of bollocks.
Jason Momoa, it is Momoa, isn't it?
Yes,
says he co-wrote a 50-page treatment for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which had Aquaman talking to the UN about what's happening with the melting ice caps.
You gotta do
shut
better,
up.
Ambassador. But, like, why is Aquaman against melting ice caps? It creates
Exactly.
more sea.
Him and Strongberg should be really,
Well, only
really
if
happy
that's,
about it.
only if that's sea ice, not land ice. So there is that.
Well, say what you want. This movie is going to be so good. I cannot wait for this movie. I love
No, it's not,
Amber
nerds.
Heard.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, they definitely knew exactly what their target audience wanted by throwing as much clothes on top of him as possible.
Yeah. You're
Amber
right.
Heard
true.
officially back as well.
Hey.
Yeah, but she's only in for like 10 minutes.
Is she?
She'll probably shit the bed. So
The iceberg fallen her or something. That's probably what's going to happen to her. I guess. I don't know.
How many years have they been making this now? 7?
I didn't see the first one. I know it made $1 billion, but I just
First one was okay. It was a bit
Aquaman,
Quetch-fest. It was a
The
bit
first one was
Quetch-fest, but it was all right.
no, the first one was pretty damn good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it
first
was
one's
alright.
awesome.
yeah, Aquaman though. It's Aquaman. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Oh,
Superman. It's not Batman. It's not Spider-Man.
You're right. It's not because it's Aquaman and he's awesome. You watch yourself. You watch yourself.
It was all right. It was all right. It was entertaining.
It was
yeah.
so. Well, I just want to say right now, it's the only DCEU film that made $1 billion. So suck it, okay? That movie's awesome, okay? And Aquaman is awesome.
Is he
Suck
awesome?
it. No, you suck it.
Christmas. This is released, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
Probably not this one. It'll probably be Christmas 2032. Probably.
Stick
But,
that in your dirt.
2032.
Is he meant to be underwater there or something?
No, I think he's because they're looking for the lost kingdom and everything, and I think that it's this
Lost Kingdom.
yeah, it's this
I know
city
that.
called I think it's called Nexius or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's in the comic books. It like changes. It like it only appears every so often, and when it does, he goes to look. It's the seventh. If you remember from the first movie, it's the kingdom that was in the desert and then it disappeared, and they can't find it now, and they kind of reference it, but they don't really explain it like the other ones.
Well, just mislaid it. That's all. They'll find it. It's probably under the bed because that's where you'll always.
Yeah,
It's the last place you look.
yeah, they'll find it when they're not looking for it.
Exactly.
It'll be in the polar ice caps.
It'll be in the last place you look.
Didn't they have a war with Wonder Woman?
In
the comics.
That's in Flashpoint,
Flashpoint.
yeah.
Ah, right.
Which I wish they would have done. Yeah.
Basically, the movie we're getting for that's the Flashpoint movie has almost nothing to do with Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Here you go, Hostman. Lost Kingdom, more like magical bullshit mystery box.
It's a really big mystery box.
I think Hostman's in a. I think he sounds like a man who's had enough. Don't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Sorry, Hostman.
I quite like the idea that there's a potential film in which Aquaman is deliberately trying to melt the ice caps because he wants more sea. And that's going to flood whatever the fuck Wonder Woman's home is. And so they go to war and her war crimes music plays and she genocides all the fish people. So that could be a fun film.
Right?
And she killed the women and children too.
Yeah. It's like, where's Scuttles?
And on that bombshell,
It's that guy again. It's Mr. Gunn.
get this, right? In Variety, folks, James Gunn wants a Superman who has humanity and is someone you want to hug.
So
Cavill.
Did he really say
Superman
this?
from the comics?
Yeah, he did.
He's an idiot then.
So quite literally, he wants the Superman that
Cavill.
exists already in the comics,
comics.
and
Cavill.
Cavill. Yeah.
Cavill.
I'm sorry, right, but
Cavill?
everything that I hear from this guy it sounds so wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if this new Superman film is absolute rubbish. I wouldn't be surprised. He's not saying the right
Absolute
things.
bollocks, you mean?
Yeah, he's not saying the right things at all. He's not talking about, the story or what kind of villain or how they're going to portray him or anything. He's just talking crap and wants somebody to hug. What's that all about? You know what I mean? He's a good punch in the face, doesn't he?
Abject mediocrity. Because Cavill was a soulless bot, he was. Nobody liked Cavill.
Yeah. Only about
Yeah.
millions of
There wasn't
people.
like an entire movie that was made just to put him at the end of it to show that he was coming back or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to be honest, I don't know. I like James Gunn. I like his writing, so I mean, I have faith that he'll be able to capture the spirit of Superman and what Superman
Well,
really
we'll find
stands
out next
for.
week with Guardians if he's in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might be right, but I just think I don't know. I just think that the stuff that he's coming out with Superman doesn't sound like the Superman that I want. Really.
Cavill, come on.
Yeah. I don't
The
know.
thing about this is
Wow.
where I feel it's going to end up being a problem with James Gunn, because up to this point he's always kind of had like his own little pocket in whatever he was doing, right?
Yeah.
And this has got to be an overarching universe that he's supposed to put together. That's where I think the disconnect's going to end up being, because he's very much about like controlling what he can, and trying to control that much will start to really water down what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't think Hostman's having it though. Don't screw this up, Gun. He's
tell
shouting
him.
as well.
You
Gotta rein him in. # gun control.
Very good. I like that.
I wonder if his wife's going to be in it.
She's gonna be in every movie that they
She
make.
is, yeah. She's gonna be in it for sure.
That's where it goes, isn't it?
Nepotism can get you far.
Yeah,
It can.
plus it's his wife. She's the gatekeeper. He wants to get late at night. Of course,
And
he's
she's
gonna
quite
bother.
tidy, yeah.
Yeah,
And she's quite young, isn't she, compared to him?
she is.
I
Yeah,
think she's like 20 years younger than him or something like that.
Yeah.
What?
That's the way you do it. That's the way you do it.
Let me see. I'll
That's
look,
the way
I'll look
you
it up
do
for you,
it.
Brownie.
No wonder he's got a permanent smile on his face. Okay, so
This is how you do it. Sorry.
here you go. Hello, Jim. Jim D. If they don't use Williams' theme for Superman, they shouldn't even bother. Agreed?
She's 21 years younger.
What?
Yeah.
21 years. Holy moly.
Literally, the difference between them can drink in the United States.
Lucky bastard.
Oh, lucky bastard. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
More James Gunn. Sorry, folks. It's been a slow news week.
Have you heard
Yeah.
the reviews on this film?
Yeah, a lot of people are liking it.
I've heard they're a little like they're all over the place. Like the first hour is good, and then like they're like the second hour is
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that
completely
too.
like is like a complete like nonsense. So I tend to lean towards the second part of that.
Yeah, and can I say right here this thing of him saying we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with Ezra Miller?
They know.
I think he's just saying that so that way it doesn't end up like a Shazam 2 where it just completely bombs at the
Shazam.
box office. So he's just like, well, we'll wait and see. Let's see how this one does and everything because he doesn't want everybody to not see this movie because nobody went and seen Shazam 2 because they're like, well, why would I go see this? It's gonna end. So
I think this is going to do well, though.
yeah, I'm gonna go see this movie. I don't care how many babies he let suck on bullets. I'm gonna go. See this movie. I honestly don't care.
Here you go. R2, B2. This will not make $1 billion.
I disagree. I think this is gonna make $1 billion. I think.
I
this
don't think
really
it's going to
is.
crack the $1 billion mark, but I think it'll get pretty close.
Oh,
Yeah.
see. I don't know.
I think we'll get like an 800
you don't
million.
think people are gonna go see it just because of Michael Keaton's Batman
Yeah.
alone?
But how
It's a tough
how
call,
much
isn't
is
it?
that gonna how much is that gonna pull? Like
I'm
specifically?
I'm
lot.
definitely gonna go see it twice opening weekend for sure because I've already.
I mean,
already.
I didn't say it's gonna bomb and flop. I just said I don't think it's gonna reach $1 billion.
Bomb and
Oh
flop.
man, see, I think it's gonna make $1 billion. I really.
I'm
do.
just saying that if you go and
Flop
watch
and bomb,
this,
whatever you want to go.
if you go and watch this, you're advocating all that crap that went on with him.
Oh,
Just saying.
Robbie.
No.
See,
I
I
disagree.
don't think
Oh,
so. I don't
Robbie.
think
I'm
so.
going to throw it out there and just say,
Probably
look, if you
get in the bin.
be the change
So-
you want to be. Yeah.
So if you go to see this movie, everybody, you are advocating for
You're
assault.
paying his wages.
You're advocating for
Alleged.
just getting,
Well, that woman, that Icelandic
Alleged.
woman, looked like
It wasn't
she
even
deserved
alleged,
it,
was it?
okay?
It was proven.
yeah, it was there was like
See
actual
it
like,
with your eyes. You know?
Here you go, Garth. Close to $1 billion. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'm
was it
gonna- I'd say
Melvin
it's probably-
Deeply who said it was going to do 2?
Really?
I saw that somewhere in there. That's just insanity if you think that.
But it's a crazy world.
I mean, there could be some sort of weird like online campaign to make this into something ridiculous just out of sheer spite.
I see Garth's going to go see it. I think everybody should go see it. Forget Miller, just forget Miller. But I just think everybody should
I
just
already
go
did.
see it. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this is going to be genuinely fun.
Yeah,
Just,
I think
just
it
forget
looks
Miller.
good.
Just forget Miller.
Yeah,
No, I can't.
yeah, and well,
course you can.
and I think that
You're
you have to
brave.
be
You
able
can do
to separate the art from the artist. I mean,
Yes.
you may think that he's a crappy person in real life, but is he a good actor? And I think that
No.
What? Have you ever seen The Perks of a Wallflower? He did amazing in that movie, and I think that he can be a good actor, even though he is a psychopath. So I think that
Yes, he acted like a normal human being for a while, right? So he's really doing pretty well.
So go ahead.
I think if this is well written, which apparently it sounds like it is, if it's well written, they shall come.
But you know they're going to retcon what happened to Man of Steel, right? In this film.
Yeah.
Well,
And so that
it's not
doesn't
a bad
bode well
thing, is
with
it?
me. Yeah, but it
Well,
doesn't bode well with
As
me.
long as they get rid of the third act, yeah. I'll
And
do
then they're
that.
gonna and then they're gonna obviously make because the original idea for this was they're gonna replace Superman with this Supergirl, the Superboy as I call it because she doesn't look like a girl at all.
That's true.
So
Super
that
they.
was the
Stop
plan. Wasn't
assuming
it?
their gender.
That was the plan that they were going to replace Henry Cavill because
Super
nobody in DC liked Henry Cavill because he was speaking the truth, right? So they were going to
No.
replace him. And when a Chinese guy was in charge of Warner Brothers, that was
Walter
the plan.
Amada.
So that's in this film. So that's one of the things I probably won't like about it.
I think he was Japanese as well. But
Yes, that's a
Mate,
Japanese name.
Sorry. I didn't mean to.
Did you just assume his nationality?
I did, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's actually
Yes,
I've noticed that when I
whatever.
re-listen back on some of the older stuff. Running gag with you, Mega Geek.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think everybody should go see it. That's just me.
Yeah, well, I'll go and see it. I think it will be interesting to see what they
At the
do
cinema
with
as well.
Ezra Miller. If they keep Ezra Miller on, that probably is something to be regretted. It doesn't impact the quality of the film at all.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is something to note around the film. If this film does very, very well and they decide to keep Ezra Miller on, you know what price Hollywood puts on probity. We already know that's quite low. And this film will just sort of confirm that fact. I don't agree with the idea that going to see it is in some way an endorsement of Ezra Miller going around and
Too bad.
doing things that are bad, shall we say. It's just an interesting note, but I know I'm firmly on board with the separating the art from the artist thing.
Yeah,
Roman
agreed.
Polanski's a very good writer. He's also probably a word I can't say. It's so the same thing with Ezra Miller. The film will stand or fall on its own merits, and it's just interesting to note around that how the politics of Hollywood play out.
Yeah, I just feel it in my water. This could do well. Here you go, Magnus Horus.
Doctor.
No Henry, no me watchy.
Brilliant.
Well, anyway, I'm going to go watch it.
Yeah,
I'll
me
probably
too.
go
Moving
see
on.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Michael Keaton. That's what I want to see.
Okay, so two kind of versions of this story. What's Mila? Is it Mila?
Mila
Kunis?
Kunis.
Mila Kunis.
Yeah, obviously fit, but
Yes.
she it says here she's going to play the Thing in the
That's
Fantastic
rubbish.
Four.
She's not
The
gonna
first headline I saw didn't mention that it was the MCU version of the Thing, so I immediately flashed back to the 1983 Thing and just thought, Mila Kunis is the Thing?
Very
How,
good.
what? How does that
Very
work?
good.
She
That's
looks
a
a bit like
thinking
Wonder
man's
Woman
joke,
there,
that.
doesn't
Very good.
she? She looks.
Yeah.
She'd make a good
She'd be
Wonder
a
Woman.
great
Oh.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Shall I do the next slide? Because they're interconnected.
I
So
mean, this is obviously a joke. So
It is.
Yeah,
Is
I
it?
agree.
It's a
I
crazy
agree.
world. You know that.
It is. I don't think they would like. I don't know. I think this is a joke. I think they wouldn't do this for real.
Here you go, folks. Max Voom Fondell. She can play with my thing. Really, mate?
agreed.
Yeah, she's very
Fit.
hot.
Fit.
I like
Next
the tasteful
story.
side boob though. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's
Genuinely a
that's
pretty
called
girl.
cleavage, actually.
You're
Very, very
married.
pretty.
You're married. You shouldn't be saying things like that.
Oh, I can look. I can look.
Very pretty girl. So that's
Can I
the
just
Thing side
briefly
of it.
ask, I don't know if he's still in the chat, if Mr. Broomfondle has jumped out of a page of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Because if you have, then congratulations, that's a brilliant name. Well done.
This is the other side of the story.
Yeah,
Sue Storm.
This is way more believable.
for sure. Absolutely.
But why? I mean, she doesn't even look like her. Why don't he just hire someone with
I
blonde
mean,
hair?
Jessica Alba was the
No,
one they
it's
hired
that
for
was
the
wrong.
original
That was
one.
bad casting, though. You got to admit.
What? Don't talk bad about my Jessica Alba.
But the quote there is, "I am not in Fantastic Four, but I know who is."
Yeah, I did see some of the famous scoopers.
There you go,
One of them
yep.
specifically that said that she wasn't Sue Storm, but she was in talks with Marvel. So I mean, if she, I mean, in all honesty, does it even matter anymore? Isn't Marvel dead
gonna
at
be
this
shit
point?
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
It's the slowest death we've seen in quite a while.
yeah. So. And if she does play, I'm sorry to interrupt
go
you.
ahead.
Yeah, if she does play Sue Storm, I won't be upset about that. She's very attractive, and they could put a blonde wig on her, and you know, and I wouldn't hate it because she's not a terrible actress. So I mean, it would
She's a good actress.
as long as the script is good. I think that which is debatable if it'll be good or not, but I think I would be fine with that.
For once, I would like to see a Marvel superheroes look exactly like they are meant to look in the comics. For
Right on.
once. For once.
2D.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of the early ones were like that, but
Yeah,
like,
they were.
And it wasn't until like recently that stopped. I mean, you can't really say Chris Evans didn't pull it off. You can't say that
Oh, Chris Evans.
Hemsworth. Chris
Chris
Hemsworth
Evans,
didn't pull it
yeah.
off. You know?
Samuel L.
So-
Jackson as well as
Yeah, exactly.
Fury.
well,
Chris
that one's
Hem-
kind of a cheating one because they based the
Yeah,
Ultimates
on the other one,
version
yeah.
of Nick Fury on Samuel L. Jackson, so he was
Right.
playing himself.
But Chris Evans
That is
made
true.
Captain America cool because I remember reading Captain America thinking, how stupid would he look in that costume if they made that real? And then when they did the version, they just made it look better. And I just fell in love with that character, especially the way Chris Evans played him. You know, so I get Captain America now. You know,
Yeah.
in the comics, I
There you
never
go.
did.
They fit it into the
Uninspired
universe
Chris
properly.
Evans.
They explained that it was deliberately supposed to be old fashioned, and it plays
Yeah.
into his character as being
Yeah.
a man out of time in a way that a redesign wouldn't have done. So that they made it fit very, very well.
And then they did end up going on to redesign it for later versions.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on, yeah.
Here you go, folks. Yowza.
Yeah, I never liked King in the comic books, let alone in these films. He's so he's just stupid in my opinion, but I've never liked this character, so I don't even know why they would make him a bad guy as like their main bad guy for the next the big baddie.
Well, he punches women. So
Which is
Allegedly.
allegedly.
And they should just really lean into that. If they haven't officially fired him yet, just lean into it. Get people to really hate him, you know.
Hey, separate the art from the artist, guys.
No. Lean
Yeah,
right into it.
hey, I'll
It's in the
probably go
bin.
see the next one if he's in it. But his thing is on May 8th, which I think is, what is that, Wednesday? So we'll see. Oh, no, it's not Wednesday. It's next week Wednesday, right? Not this week.
No,
Roid
no,
Rage,
that's
everybody.
Isn't
Sunday, I believe.
isn't his court date May 8th? I don't remember, but
That's
it's
Sunday.
coming up soon, very
Void
soon.
Rage. Anyway,
No,
okay.
Monday. May 8th is Monday.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
this is
ahead.
dead anyway, isn't it? It's not going to happen, is it? It's just going to be
What, Fantastic Four?
the film's going to probably happen, but it's just going to be shite, isn't it? It's
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
it's
can't
a
see
long
them doing it
lingering
right.
death, isn't it?
Fantastic Four right off the bat has a lot of issues. It's tough to adapt because it really is one of the most comic-y comics in Marvel.
Yeah.
So it is actually a hard adaptation to begin with.
That's so true.
It
That's
can
so
be
true.
Make
done,
it an
though.
animation.
It can be done.
It can be done, especially
Yeah.
if you've got a really good director and a really good writer and bring it up to date. with
Could you
what's
do it then,
happening
yeah?
in the world? I mean, I would give it a bash. Yeah, definitely. I've got loads of ideas on how to bring this to the screen, but Hollywood won't like my ideas because I'll be keeping true as best I can to the actual characters themselves.
So you'll actually bombard people with radiation in hopes that they get superpowers. That's your idea.
well, the
method
thing is,
acting.
the thing is that there's a lot of things in Fantastic Four that you could change for the better, but I think being close to the main characters and the way they are, I think that's the key, I reckon. But that's my
Here you
opinion.
go, Theodore Pinnock. The story is complete bunk. Mila Kunis is friends with the director, and they sat to lunch together. A hack journalist cooked up the whole thing.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, but it does say there. She just says, "I am not in Fantastic Four, but I know who is." Yeah.
She plays Meg, doesn't she, in Family Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does.
The ugliest character.
Oh,
in-
she was in the worst film ever made, Jupiter Ascending, wasn't she?
Oh, that was terrible.
She's in a
Yeah,
couple
it
of
was
bad
pretty
movies.
bad.
She had a lot of trouble transitioning from TV acting to movie
for
acting.
sure.
I don't know if her agent
Uh,
just didn't know how to pick the things for her. or whatnot.
Massive TNG fan as well. She was on James Corden the other day with Picard, and she was just a total fangirl. Yeah, massive TNG fan.
Yeah, I
That
do
would
like
make
her. She was in those Bad Mom movies. I did like those movies.
Yeah, I saw the first
Sad.
one. I thought it was
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, sat and watched those with my wife. She likes those, so
Okay, shall we move on?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And-
official, folks.
Here
Today,
we go.
it's a me, a Mario. Past 1 billion today, folks.
Nice.
So the question I got to ask myself is, right, Hollywood keeps going on about all this agenda crap. How comes they cast Chris Pratt as Mario when they shouldn't have got an Italian guy to play Mario?
Guy,
Do you know what I mean?
should have got the original
Well,
voice.
wasn't the guy who played Mario in the '90s version? He came out and said that he wasn't going to go and see it because it's erasing the existence of Italian Americans or something.
I know it's stupid.
Are you talking?
It's a me, a
Aren't you
Mario.
talking about John Leguizamo? Is that who you're talking
Yes, I
about?
think
John
I think so.
Leguizamo
Yeah.
is like the strangest. When it comes to that, it's like
Yeah.
the strangest hypocrisy I've ever heard. Because
Yes.
because he's complaining that they didn't hire him to play an Italian, and it was hurting like Latin representation.
Yeah.
It was like the weirdest thing, but he's kind of known for that at this point. Just
He's not done anything lately. That's why.
he was in that Violent Night movie.
Yeah, Violent Night.
And he was the worst part of that movie.
I thought he wasn't bad.
Aww.
Here you go, folks. Smilex
you
still
think a
not
short-
out in Japan.
Wait,
It released this weekend, I believe, in Japan.
Did you know that it was actually shown on Argentinian TV in its entirety by mistake?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
By mistake. Yeah, let's just go with that.
Yeah, so it was shown
Sabotage!
in Argentina on network TV in its entirety by mistake.
How did I make a mistake on that?
I think it's something to do with where they get provided with promotional trailers.
They got sent a full copy of the movie.
Yeah, and some clever so-and-so played the entire film on Argentina.
I haven't seen the Argentinian version, but I'm morally certain if I did, it would have slot lights just drifting around the screen. Which, if you know what I'm talking about, it's yeah. I'm happy that the film grossed $1 billion. I didn't hate the film. I know people aren't allowed to have mid takes on films these days, but I did keep saying in my video on this, I can understand why it was enjoyable. I found bits of it enjoyable. I just thought that it could have been significantly better than it was and should have been. And given that Nintendo will almost certainly be building out some sort of cinematic universe from this, you will have to expect it to be better than this in the future because it has no story to speak of, which is a shame. I think part of its significant success comes down to the fact that parents have been very, very desperate for this kind of entertainment for their kids for a long time. And we've not been getting very much of that. But all the people who say, well, it's brilliant to see that a non-woke film is doing so well, need to ask themselves what they expect to come next. What are they actually demanding of the film? Is it just that the film doesn't hate them? Or do they actually want a film to espouse some sort of message that they agree with? Do they want the film to do something? Or do they just not want it to hate them? Because it will get old pretty quickly if all the film needs to be incredibly successful is, well, it doesn't hate me. That's the lowest bar a film could possibly be expected to clear. So I'm kind of annoyed by that aspect of the defense of the film. It's not a terrible film. It's just an empty film. And I think you should be demanding more of it.
I think you're right. I think you're right. They should be demanding more of it. Yeah, but they aimed it squarely at the kids, right? And
yes,
and I think you're right. I think the next one, hopefully, I'll be thinking more about characterization and making the story more in line with something that's good. But with this one, I guess they were just it feels like they were testing the water because they applied everything in there, even a Donkey Kong in this one. Do you know what I mean? So it was just. I don't think they were convinced of the success. I don't think they thought it was going to be the success that it is now. So
agreed. Here you go, folks. Neil Blomkamp, the guy who's doing Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Somebody tweeted him yesterday, said, would you be interested in doing a Metron Prime movie?
Metroid Prime?
Yeah. And the answer was straight away, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what Nintendo has to draw on. Nintendo has a number of incredibly beloved
Fox
properties
as well.
Star Fox.
Oh my God,
Star Fox could be amazing.
I love Star Fox.
Donkey Kong, Smash Brothers, Zelda, which is probably the next big one.
Yeah,
Smash Brothers is the ideal Avengers style team up.
Yeah. Zelda though.
Brilliantly.
Oh, bugger all that Nintendo stuff. Where's the Amiga 500 Xenon Mega Blast?
We're not all 500 years old. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you are. You just haven't realised it yet.
Honestly, the real thing. So obviously, if they come out with a Zelda movie, that would be huge, and if that goes over well.
No.
The one thing that I'm wondering, because they have worked together before and have had partnerships with games and stuff, if Sega would allow Sonic to come over.
That'd be fun.
That's where I'd be a little interested to see, because that movie
one.
would go ridiculous.
But I mean, there's already the Sonic movie, isn't there, which did reasonably well, and I think it's a useful comparison because it was much less hype around the Sonic movie than the Mario movie for the obvious reason that though Sonic is popular, he isn't Mario's sort of stratospheric levels of popular. They listened to fans and changed the design of the character, and they actually thought it might be worth including a story in the film. and it was a surprising success. I'm not especially surprised by the success of this film because Mario is so popular. All they needed to do was get recognizable things on the screen and not do anything wrong with those. And so in a bit to not do anything wrong, they took no risks at all. No story means you can't do something wrong. It doesn't work if you go forward to something like Zelda. I don't think the same sort of forgiveness will be applied to the film because Zelda it's less childish to begin with. It has a more implied story anyway. And there's only so long you can watch films like this before you start to glaze over because you've seen all of these references 1,000 times. Why would you not be playing the game?
Didn't you?
Yeah, why would they not be playing the game?
Who's the guy? Is it Neil Blank? What's his name? Blomkamp. Right, he was making Aliens, an Aliens film
with Sigourney Weaver. Yeah,
the sequel after Aliens 2 he was doing.
Yeah,
and I wanted to see that.
Canned.
I want to see that.
District 9 in the end, didn't he?
District 9, yeah.
Yeah, but
that was a good film.
But what you call it? The actual artwork that he had for that version looked fantastic.
She said she's never ever going to play Ripley again. The only film she would have come back for was Blomkamp's version.
Yeah. I don't know. Shame that 20th Century Fox didn't jump on that.
I will say, take care, Donny. I know, it's just madness.
Yeah. Can I say real quick, somebody had mentioned earlier in the chat about Duck Hunt, the movie. There was a trailer before, I just recently saw this with my family, but there was a trailer before this movie, this Mario movie called Migration, and I literally thought it was a Duck Hunt movie. Like I was like, oh, they're doing Duck Hunt, the movie? How is this going to pan out? And it wasn't that, but I just thought I'd mention that because somebody said Duck Hunt.
Just imagine how Duck Hunt the movie would go over with like
it would be... It'd be 5 minutes long. It would just be like, hey, we're going to fly out here. And then boom, 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 boom.
Literally just make it an hour, 45 minutes of ducks getting blasted out of the sky and just see how long it takes to get it taken down by PETA. That's all you need.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I would watch that. I'd take my kids and everything. Like,
okay, then, guys. Question. Do you think this is the next big thing then? As in the kind of games? Yes. Because Sonic... So effectively what I'm saying is Sega and Nintendo, Marvel's gone, they've blown it. These are the next two big things, Sega and Nintendo.
Well,
what do you think?
I actually
sorry, after you.
I was going to say I actually said something similar on Platoon's show earlier this week where it's one of the advantages the video game industry has when it comes to this. So with comics, it was Marvel and DC. You have your independents, but it's really those two. All these video game companies are kind of like they're their own pocket universes that if one fails, it doesn't pull down the whole industry. So like it inevitably they can float on their own a little bit more. There will be the big one that is Nintendo that will be the one that probably steers the whole market. But if you have your little Sega universe, you have your little like whatever your universe over here, like I know that they're doing Metal Gear Solid, if they're doing Gears of War, these are not connected things. So if they fail, they fail on their own.
Lord?
Yeah, so, well, there's an element of that they will fail on their own, except insofar as Nintendo particularly will try and create an actual cinematic universe out of this. So they, I think, quite recently created Nintendo Pictures as a separate division of the company, which almost guarantees you're going to get a lot more Nintendo movies coming out. If they do try to tie it together in the way that the MCU did, I think that there's a huge amount of potential there, and it would be great fun to see it done well. However, if you are going to do that, then you do sort of make every individual film tied to the success or failure of the preceding one. And so it can go badly wrong from that perspective. Video game movies, more generally, that is the next big thing. Video games are already an industry to rival Hollywood in size. We've got so many of them coming out. I think just this year we've got, so with Super Mario, we've got Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Is that this year as well?
Yeah, that's in December.
Amazon
Fox
is doing
as well as a TV
Fallout,
series.
I think.
Tales.
Fallout's coming out. Warhammer is coming out as well. Borderlands is in development. There's rumors of BioShock. There's Metal Gear, of course, as well. There's like dozens of these things which are slated just for the next sort of 2 or 3 years. And that's because video games have this incredibly large and established and devoted audience. So it's a quick buck, as this film has proven. This film basically says all we need to do is put recognizable things on the screen and this established audience will come. The difference is that when the MCU did it, the MCU has an established audience in the comics, but that's nowhere near the same size as the video game audience is these days. So the MCU thought it had to create something related to but very distinct from the comics. It had to actually gain a new audience by telling a story with characters that were unfamiliar to the majority of people who would see them. That's what a video game sort of cinematic universe or a successful video game cinematic enterprise would have to do, I think. It has to try and say, look, we have a core audience, that's fine, but we also want to build an audience off of this, and we want to tell stories with these characters. We have to reintroduce them to people who are not quite so familiar. We can't just do what Super Mario did and put recognizable things on the screen. And if you're tying these films together, as I think Nintendo probably will, that will become more difficult, because this is the safest of safe movies. This is the Force Awakens of video game movies, and we know how that panned out. So I want them to do more, but I doubt their ability to do it, is the short version.
If Sega and Nintendo teamed up as a big production studio, I think they'd clear up.
Maybe. I don't know which, because there will be a film studio that owns the rights to Sonic, though, so it won't just be a case of Sega and Nintendo. It'll be Nintendo, whoever Nintendo partners with, which will probably be Universal going forward, and then Paramount for the Sonic movie rights as well. So you have the Spider-Man relationship with the MCU in play.
Okay, so lots happening, I do feel, in the future. Shall we move on?
Yeah, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Terrifying.
Here you go, folks. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 has officially wrapped this week, 3 years after they started filming.
It's going to be good though, because knowing Tom Cruise, he's very much into his making movies thing more so than real life. Concentrates a lot on his own movies, so I doubt if it'll be crap. I think it'll be really good. And because it's part 1, it's going to be a cliffhanger, isn't it? So it's going to piss me off. But there you go.
There's $1 billion off this purely off the back of Top Gun.
He's looking his age though now. He's really looking.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't this coming out in July and it just wrapped? Yeah, am I wrong on that? I may be wrong. I thought it was coming out in July.
So did I.
Yeah,
and it just wrapped.
Yeah, a couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have all their big CGI moments already, done. And
July
filmed,
12th. It's supposed to come out.
Yeah, that's
there you go.
that's so
Average
close.
British nerd. I was working on it when it wrapped. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I have faith that they'll finish it. I'm just very curious as to if they just
this is
wrapped.
part 1, folks, which is out in a couple of months. This is part 1.
Well, I mean, it's not unusual that films are up down to the wire before release date. So.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. I just, that does make me a little bit worried.
There you go. 3 weeks ago it wrapped, yeah.
Well, I mean, Tom Cruise, he did all those crazy stunts in it, so I don't know.
Oh, it's going to be good.
Like yelling at that crew member.
yeah. I think they got that in the film.
Yeah, for not being professional. This is going to be really good.
That's the after credits bit.
I am looking forward to this, though.
Yeah,
I will be seeing it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think it's the Mission Impossible films become it's so much better than the Bond movies, isn't it? The Daniel Craig Bond movies. So.
Yeah. I like the team aspect of it. It's very cool.
Macquarie and Tom Cruise are just a dream team, aren't they?
Yeah. They're both
that's what Mission Impossible was always about, though. There was like whereas James Bond is kind of a one-man show, he could kind of do it all. Mission Impossible always had, your infiltrator, you had your computer guy, you had everything, and it all worked in together. And if one of them went down, it screwed up the whole mission, and they had to reevaluate everything. So
now, what I mean about it being better than Bond is that the stunts are better, the whole story structure is better. They basically have respect on the characters, but the last few James Bond films with Daniel Craig has just been rubbish. It really has, especially the last one. So they kind of taking their mantle really off.
Well,
James
you didn't
Bond.
like Quantum of Solace? So good.
It was okay. It was okay, but it wasn't great.
I'm joking. It was bad.
So it wasn't great.
That's an underrated. That's a very, very underrated film. Purely let down by the shonky editing.
I didn't see it. I was just joking. I've heard nothing. I've heard
Quantum of Solace is a great film. Just waiting to get out, but the shonky editing destroyed that.
I do find
That's
it
really
amazing how the Mission Impossible series has had this longevity, though. When you go back and watch the original, like 3 of them, like they were good movies, but like it's gotten to they've gotten progressively better, and the longevity has become something like
1996.
yeah, you're talking like this is one of the longest running series out there right now.
Yeah, it is good though. The last two were really good. I mean, the stunts in the last one was just, you
Was
just
it
sit there thinking,
Fallout, the last one?
yeah. I
God,
just sat there thinking,
fantastic film.
is Tom Cruise crazy? That's what I thought.
Fallout is a great film.
Yeah, just they were good. They're really entertaining movies. So I don't know.
Here you go, folks. Jim D. The chopper sequence in
Yes,
Fallout
yeah.
was astonishing in
It was
IMAX.
great.
And he flew as well. He learned how to fly,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah.
To do that.
Very good sequence. It was very good sequence.
Definitely looking forward to this.
Mm,
$1 billion, easy, folks. If it doesn't make $1 billion, then it's a travesty. But anyway, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Blade.
Speaking of travesty,
Who's cast? Nobody knows.
It doesn't matter. There's no way Marvel Studios can pull off anything with that.
True Detective creator Nick Pizzilato
Yes.
is now working on the script. Apparently, it
I
starts
did-
shooting in a couple of months.
I don't know if he did the True Detective season that that Blade actor was on, but I actually liked that season. That
How you pronounce
Mahershala
it?
Ali.
That's it. Yeah, I can never pronounce his
Yeah,
first name.
I liked the first season and the third season that Mahershala Ali was on. So I mean, if it's anything like those seasons of True Detective, I do have faith in terms of that. But
Blade bin.
but I am skeptical because Blade is like, you got to go full R, I feel like, and plus
yes.
I don't know how I feel about them adding vampires to the MCU. Like it's I don't know, because I feel like if they're not gonna do what are they called, not the Dark Knights, what are they called, Midnight Suns, if they're not gonna do Midnight Suns, then what's the point of adding this supernatural element to the MCU? Like, we've got witches and everything, and now they're adding vampires, and we've got werewolves. I'm just like, if you're not going to do Midnight Suns, what's the point of adding all this supernatural stuff to it? But
they're just throwing as much shit against the wall, hoping it'll stick at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. So, but I am hopeful in terms of this, because I did, like I said before, I did like season 1 and season 3 of True Detective. So hopefully,
that's not guaranteed this is going to be good though.
That's true. That's totally true.
Here you go, Jim D. Wesley Snipes is Blade. Yeah, agreed. That's it.
He still looks good, Wesley Snipes. They could still easily get him back.
He could still do it. Yeah.
That's actually one of the problems too, is that most of the properties that the MCU has used have nothing to hold up against. This does have something to hold up against.
Right.
And the original Blade movie and the second one, the third one is
Blade
crap,
2
but
is fantastic.
The first one and the second one are still very well regarded. So you're automatically going to be compared to that, no matter what.
Yeah.
Blade 2 is fantastic.
Then you should take that out of the equation and just get Wesley Snipes back and get a really good script and do it the best you can instead of all this politics rubbish in it.
Here you go, folks. Hostman, rest in peace, Wesley Snipulon.
I mean, his career never really recovered from being sent to jail for tax evasion. So
no, he didn't.
I'm sure they can get him cheap.
Yeah, they can get him cheap, but the last film. The last film.
Always bet on black folks.
Was it that Expendables? That was the last film I saw him in.
It was in that Coming to America.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. Terrible.
It does say something about Hollywood's political leanings, though, doesn't it? That going back to the earlier topic, Wesley Snipes' tax evasion. Well, he can't possibly work again. Ezra Miller,
right? Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Probably, what do you think? In the bin for this one?
Yeah, I agree. If you don't have Wesley Snipes, it's not really Blade. So, I mean,
really,
he looks immortal.
I don't agree with that, though. I do agree that it can be recast. I'm just saying that it's going to be really difficult to live up to.
If you're gonna gamble on, because everyone's, as you said, everyone's going to compare it to the original film. So I just think it's a weird choice, and I agree with the Ezra Miller thing. It just smacks of typical Hollywood hypocrisy.
If
Oh,
I was
yes.
if I was asked
It
like,
stinks.
hey, how would you introduce Blade? I wouldn't do it with his own movie. I would do essentially like a backdoor pilot and try to get him involved with another movie at some point, even if it's only in a scene to test it whether or not it's worth it.
Or like a Blade Twilight crossover where he murders all of the vampires.
I think that actually could go over very well.
With any luck.
Oh, it would. Yes, it would be a brilliant film. I'd pay to watch that.
But I do
Okay.
feel like that's how the way they should have went was kind of have him appear in something else, test the waters of how people feel about it before committing to the film. But what do I know? I don't control a
What do
company
any of
that's,
us know,
that's
to be
losing
fair, but-
billions of dollars.
Okay.
What does
So,
Kathleen Kennedy know?
Snipes is Blade, Marvel Studios. Moving on.
Yay.
Yeah.
Dennis says June. Is it Dune or June?
It's
Dune.
Go on.
Dune if you
Well-
want to be precise. It's Dune and not June. But most people
I
will say
can't hear a
June because
difference
it's
between those
easy.
two versions.
Yeah.
Well, one has an enunciated Y in the second syllable, Dune, as opposed to June, which sounds like the month.
National Lampoon did a novel called Dune, which was a parody. Got it.
Did we say last week this should have been released on June the 2nd?
We did. That joke's been done, mate.
Yeah, on our
It's
channel.
done last week, apparently.
Done
Yes.
last week,
Yeah, on
yeah.
our channel. It's our joke. We can claim it.
I wanted the movie to really open just where we left the characters. There's no time jumps. I want a dramatic continuity.
Well, yeah.
This is, but it's one of the most needless comments in the world.
Yeah.
Of course, it's
Exactly.
the second part. It's
Yes.
the first film finished halfway through book one.
Right.
This film is doing the
exactly.
rest of book one. What else are we to expect of this?
Yeah.
So I'm unironically very much looking forward to this film. I really like the first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think this could be very, very good because it gets to the more substantive part of the original
gonna be a
book,
war
which will
film,
hopefully quell some people's disappointment with the first one's relative
It's
lack
gonna
of
get-
action.
Gonna get spicy.
You talking about me?
Did you say it's going to get spicy? I recognize that reference. Yeah, I think this could be. I think it could be really, really good. I think the original one was very well performed. It stuck reasonably closely to the book without going into some of the Frank Herbert's weird LSD trip pseudo spirituality. It will be surprising if that doesn't make make itself known in this one though, because it becomes integral to the later books. And if they want to turn this into a long running franchise, they will have to grapple with it at some point. But this quote just feels like filler content, really. We know that's what the film's going to be. It's not selling it particularly, but it's also not going to take away from it.
Here you go, folks. Max Voomfondel. Why she got a Mr. Hilter mustache?
That's
Isn't that like a
Um,
breathing apparatus or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's connected. It's connected to the still suit. So the still suit, given they're on a desert planet, the still suit captures all of your bodily water and essentially recycles it, and then filters it back in through your nose. So you lose about 1% of your bodily humidity every single day, and that's how the Fremen survive on the planet for as long as they do.
Probby, could you read that comment in your usual style, especially how you say that name? Because it makes me chuckle. Please.
What? I have a particular oeuvre that I don't know about that you're pointing out, making
No,
me feel awkward.
No, don't worry, it's not sexual. Just
Right.
please do it.
I think it is a bit sexual, actually.
It just makes me laugh how you say that Austrian's name.
Why has she got a Hilter moustache? There you are. You weird
you.
man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was definitely worth the setup.
Yeah, thank you.
It
yeah.
failed me.
Awkward at all.
I would like to point out that we worried about the pronunciation of that name. That we
Mr.
debated the
Hilton?
pronunciation of the word Dune. We've worried about the pronunciation of Vroom handle or whatever the hell.
Vroomfondel. He's a philosopher from the
And
Hitchhiker's
we
Guide to
just
the Galaxy.
completely just skipped over the fact that the dude's name is clearly pronounced Villanueva. But we're just gonna go.
Never work
Villanueva.
with children, animals, or problem being.
Or French people.
or all three.
Dennis Villeneuve?
I have never worked out how to pronounce this. I think it's
Isn't it Villeneuve?
Villeneuve?
What nationality is
Oh,
it?
God.
It's French. It's a French name.
It's the French version of Villanueva.
Yeah.
Villeneuve.
Villanueva.
Dennis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
Okay.
Sorry, Dennis.
He shares the name of the admiral who led, I think, the Spanish Armada. but he was a Frenchman, I believe. So I don't know how that was pronounced either.
So
I
here you
I
go.
read it, but I don't know.
This is why Uninspired needs to come on here.
Yes, that's how we pronounce
No,
it.
that's entirely useless because how are you pronouncing the L's and the E and the U and the V part of that? That's not helpful.
In German,
we
that
got
would be
that.
Neu. That would be Neu.
Okay.
Villeneuve.
Not Brian.
I'm so glad I
Denis
did.
Denis Villeneuve.
I am.
Welcome
This
to
is my
Pronouncing
favorite thing
French
I've ever
words.
done to this channel.
Villeneuve.
This is a new segment.
Pronounce Dennis.
Yeah, you just pronounce however you want. If he doesn't like it, he can suck it. I don't care.
You can ask
I
Platoon.
do-
This
yeah.
is becoming a running thing for me. I try to get people to pronounce things on his channel too.
Princess
Yeah, I
Fiona's
remember
here. Hello, Princess Vianu.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
that's Villeneuve, I think she was. That's
Villeneuve.
closer to what I
I
was
like that
going
one.
for.
Villeneuve.
Okay, so we've got all of the things, all of the possible options.
Here you go. Dinjarin.
I don't think it's
Calculon.
Jacques Villeneuve is more famous.
Viagra.
Viagra.
That's the hardest one to pronounce.
So I hope this second part is good because I didn't like the first part.
Rest
so
in
first
peace,
part, second
Vilulon.
I think it will be. I liked the first one,
This is gonna be
and
shit hot.
I really liked these books. I read the book again. I hadn't read the book since I was 17, but then I reread it right before the first movie came out, and it's still really, really good. And then the movie, I really liked it a lot.
It's gonna be a banger, folks. It's gonna be a banger.
I'm definitely gonna see it in theaters. I can't wait for this movie. So
Yeah.
Did everybody
Banger.
see it in theaters? I saw
Yes.
it. I saw it in the cinema.
Yes.
yeah.
Because it was on TV as well, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, I saw it on TV. The first one I saw on TV because I had HBO Max. But I'm definitely going to see this opening weekend when this comes out.
I think I saw the first part opening weekend. I've seen it subsequently on TV as well. It's weird, I think, because it is very, well, it's as faithful as it possibly can be, I think,
Right.
to the book. The book is not as approachable as most. So, for example, one of the reasons that Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings really works is that it is quite faithful to the book. But the book is intrinsically more exciting than Dune is, I would argue. So this film attempts to do something not unlike what Peter Jackson did with The Lord of the Rings, but its source material simply isn't quite as easily graspable. I liked the fact that it was trying to be quite so faithful. It wasn't trying to be anything more sort of popcorny than it really should have been. And it's left itself... Well, in a way, it suffered for leaving itself halfway through the story because most of the action in Dune, the first book, happens in the second half. So it was a more difficult introduction to the universe than it needed to be, but it had a sort of integrity for that reason. It didn't sacrifice the slow world-building stuff in a bid to cram more action in than existed in the source.
Let's not forget it was released on HBO Max and the cinema or theatres same day, and I went out of my way to go watch it at the theatre. I could have easily gone ooh-ah.
Yeah.
I went with the same people I normally go and see Marvel films with, and they normally like Marvel films while I hate them. They didn't like Dune, and I liked it, which means that I'm right, basically.
I agree with that.
The Lord has spoken, everybody. Let's move on. It's going to be a banger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Could
so
have told you this.
the UK, that's where we're from. Well, some of us.
Oh, bloody northerner.
Somebody's got to be.
Last I checked, the
one
North
of-
is still part of the UK.
It's grim up north. That's all you need to remember.
It is if you watch Threads. Oh my god.
It's grim up north. The UK, one of the least racist countries in the world. New survey finds.
That's
Who'd
why
have
everyone wants to
thought?
come here.
Who'd have thought?
There you are.
It's almost like being an isolated island off the coast of the main continent. It prevents a lot of people from showing up anyway. So it's
Really not.
I'm joking.
Yeah, you would think. If only.
But that's not true, is it?
It was which part? The part that I just made up?
No, the UK is one of the least racist countries in the world.
No, it is. It is true.
Well,
Is it-
I mean,
according
the survey clearly says.
according
Yes.
to certain
What, black
people, we
person?
are really, really racist, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, surveys like this I don't pay any attention to as a rule because they always ask the wrong questions and they're always funded by people who already have the conclusion in mind. So you'll get a think tank
you
called
go.
something like the Centre for Countering Hate in Britain. And lo and behold, it finds that the UK is uniquely racist. You find another think tank which is something like the UK is a brilliant country think tank, and it says the UK is the least racist country in the world. They're equivalently unbelievable. The most interesting things to look at are demographic statistics and particularly social attitudes around things like interracial marriage, and also the amounts and the way in which ethnic minorities flourish in education and in the job market. The UK has one of the highest favourability ratings of any country in the world for interracial marriage, which is a really, really good, handy example of proving people's general attitudes, since interracial marriage tends to track with the overall attitude to race in a country. Same thing with job markets and education. If you live in a country where the highest performing demographics are from ethnic minorities, you are not a particularly racist country, and we are one of those.
Well, don't forget we had, this isn't anything new. I mean, when they tried to, Oswald Mosley tried to do a march through Cable Street in the 1930s or 20s?
30s, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that was violently
Brian.
opposed by the East Londoners who kicked them out. So,
Not Brian in the chat. This is the bit we fast forward on the rerun.
Well, so they're saying that our country is not racist at all, or the least racist.
Least.
Yeah, but if you're
One of
talking
the
about
least.
people's
Yeah, but we kind of
color
knew
of their
that.
skin,
Go
yeah,
to
but
go
there's
to
all
Europe.
kinds of racism, isn't there? In
Go
this
to
country?
go to the mainland of Europe. You will discover very quickly how racist Europe really
That's what I'm
is.
saying.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't think
Compared to
that
Britain.
comment is right.
No, compared to Britain.
No, it's a comparative statement. So it's not saying the UK isn't racist. It's saying that it's one of the least racist countries in the
Oh, I
world.
see.
Now that's relative to comparatively very high levels of racism on the continent. So English black footballers who've played in the Premier League, for example, who move away to Italy are utterly astounded by the racist abuse that they suffer in Italy from the crowds, because Italy, despite being much more closely in contact, or perhaps because of being more closely in contact with sort of North Saharan Africa, are much more racist and much less reconstructed. Hungary, for example, will not allow anyone in who is a different skin color or a different religion because they believe that it's integral to preserving their national identity is to just basically not let other people in. That there are merits and demerits to that policy. It's not something that's admirable, but it's not as villainous as people like to pretend that it is. But the UK, by comparison to any country in Central Europe and most in Western Europe, is simply not as racist as those. But we're always told that it is uniquely racist, and that presumably is why all of the foreigners want to come here.
I see.
Well
I'm from
said.
America, so.
Yeah, get in the bin, American.
Here you go.
Hey, look. Apparently, we're the best racists in the whole world. So.
Well, you're going to
Well,
be
you
good
know
at
how to do
something.
it better than we do. You know how to kick Asians out of Harvard, for example, because they're not black, which is highly attuned racism.
I mean, we've created
lot of
different
spoken
kinds
folks.
over here. So.
Wow.
I love America. I think your
Oh yes.
Yeah,
country
it's a
has
wonderful
got-
country.
I love your country. I love the people. Your
Oh, you're just
country.
saying that.
No.
No, if I can afford it ever, I'm moving to Florida because there's no income
Yeah,
tax, so
yeah.
I'm definitely going there.
I would move. Yeah, if I got
That
the
would
chance.
actually be very interesting to see, like, people start like emigrating from England to Florida, considering the fact the weather differences are pretty astounding.
The thing is, though, I would have to try and do it legally, which is very, very difficult to do because I don't have the stamina to cross from Mexico, and that's apparently very easy to do. So,
But then you would just get bussed up to New York at that point. They would just put you on a bus and send you to New York, so you wouldn't end up where you wanted to anyway.
Just
that was
brush
a
up in
lovely
your
policy.
Spanish and you'll be fine.
that was great fun. All the northern
think it's-
states saying, yes, more immigration. And so Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis say, okay, have them. And then they say, oh my God, why are there immigrants in fucking Martha's Vineyard? We can't be having this.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
think
man, that was-
it's very tricky for English people to
Because they take a jobs.
emigrate to the USA because
I am
there's a treaty
pro-
or something preventing us.
I am pro bringing as many British people to the United States as we can because we are losing the language slowly, and we would having an injection of people who
Well, I
actually know how to
agree with
speak it
that.
would be great.
I agree with
Well,
that.
apparently we're getting James Corden back now, so
Oh, no.
God, that's another reason for us to leave, isn't it?
Anyway, okay, so let's move on. We kind of knew that anyway, so let's move on. This is the Online Streaming Act. Sorry, guys, important kind of stuff, especially for you in Canada. Online Streaming Acts. They basically control everything now in Canada, don't they, Lord?
It's terrible.
Well, yes. We
What
might be
should
okay
P's and
because I
Q's?
think Vex, who is occasionally on these streams, is Canadian.
Yes.
So
Yes.
she meets the criteria set out in the Online Streaming Act about promoting Canadian talent. So your channel will be fine. It's everyone else who has cause to fear this bill.
Vex is leaving Canada though, so it might end up
Oh,
being
shit.
a problem.
She's going to America.
But she
Like
will
anyone
have
with any
Canadian
sense.
citizenship still, so there might be a loophole there we can exploit.
So, what is the in a nutshell, Lord? What is the gist of this? I assume it's censorship.
Yeah, that's normally the safe assumption. So I've not been following this as closely as probably I should have done, but the basic idea, as far as I understand it, is the Trudeau government many years ago decided that it's beyond time that online streaming companies should be subjected to the same sort of regulatory scrutiny as traditional broadcasters. And in the name of this, they introduced the first version of the Online Streaming Act. And the Online Streaming Act was supposedly simply about making sure that Netflix, for example, has the same level of regulation applied to it as any given Canadian broadcaster, because they perceived what's called regulatory arbitrage, where effectively an industry is privileged for the lack of regulation applied to it versus its competitors. However,
Could be a revelation.
However, unfortunately, if you give the government the power to do anything, it will maximize that power and it will take it well beyond what it's intended to do. So the first version of the Online Streaming Act as presented went well above trying to apply the same level of regulation to YouTube as is applied to CBC. The government decided, for example, that all online streaming services which were not very well defined and could theoretically apply to normal people who simply stream on YouTube, should have to pay into a Canadian fund for propagating Canadian talent, and that streaming services shouldn't be allowed to operate in Canada unless they were shown to be prioritizing Canadian cultural ability, cultural talent, and casting Canadians front and center. This is not really evil as much as it is incompetent, because they didn't define what online broadcaster was. They didn't decide or define what a program was, because it purported to regulate specific programs. They didn't define what a content creator was. And they gave all of these regulatory powers to a relatively small-scale, old-fashioned regulator, which is beyond supposedly government control, but it's also beyond democratic accountability, which is the Canadian equivalent of Ofcom. This caused a lot of fuss at the time because people pointed out the fact that the bill hadn't defined any of its key terms meant that it was potentially abusable, which it is. Normally what happens in this country is when that kind of thing happens, there's a huge fuss, the bill gets taken away and it gets re-presented in Parliament in a moderated form with more amendments and more clarification. In Canada, the opposite happened. In Canada, they went through the first version of this and people added amendments which clarified certain terms. Then the bill was taken away and then it was brought back before the Canadian House of Commons with none of the safety mechanisms that were applied to the original one. In other words, it was a more radical version of the bill that was already too radical for people to accept. Right. And then subsequently, of course, the Trudeau government strong-armed people into supporting it. It has immense amounts of support from certain Canadian cultural groups, because what this bill does is like an omnibus bill in the United States. It packages a huge number of different measures together so that if you support one of them, like, for example, the Canadian equivalent of an acting guild wants more Canadians on screen. So the Canadian Acting Guild supports the bill. However, it doesn't give a shit about the censorship implications, but it managed to cobble together this coalition of various different interest groups to support the bill, even though they didn't like or didn't understand the broader consequences of it. As a result, the bill that's passed so far doesn't define what a program is, which means that you, who are putting on a program now, Mr. Brown, could theoretically come under the purview of the Online Streaming Act, as I understand it, if Canada chose to define it so, because you are putting out a program on a streaming service which is not contributing to the Canadian cultural economy. It theoretically gives the government the power to decide as well, because it has specific measures about what's visible on YouTube. It gives the Canadian government the power to decide on behalf of Canadians what content is recommended to them on YouTube algorithms, on Netflix and all the rest of it. So you might be going through Spotify and you have like a playlist or like an automated automatically generated playlist. You're listening to stuff, and then randomly a Canadian band you've never heard of because their shit comes on, but that's there because the Canadian government says that 30% of all content has to be coming from Canada.
Okay.
That gives the federal
North
government the power
Korea.
to do all of this. So it's a terrible bill. The consequences aren't really knowable because the bill isn't defined. But the problem is that because the bill isn't defined, it theoretically gives the regulator and the Canadian government way more power than it even necessarily wants to have. But it's been drafted by incompetent people who don't understand the plain meaning of words. That's a really long explanation for which I apologise. But
Trudeau, he really is a shit.
Yes, that's the short form.
And quite honestly, he's a bit of a chip of the old father, isn't he?
Yes. Speaking of shit, I don't think I've said this tonight. Tim, I like saying this. Hannibal. The little platoon, that's you, Lord, isn't it?
Yes.
Knows his shit. I live in Canada.
He knew that too. He did.
He is scary smart, everybody. Like
No, he just talks a lot. You think he's smart. That's
It's the accent. It's the accent and the word count. That's all it is. I could have just made all of that up.
Oh, so modest.
It sounded good, though. I would say, where's Vex to fully explain it? But
Vex would have. I can tell you what Vex would have just said. She'd been like, "Trudeau's a cunt." And that's all she
yeah,
would've
that's
said.
probably what
Oh.
he would have said.
at that moment, you got my stream demonetized.
What he meant to say is that she's her own country. That's what he was saying.
Yeah,
So
he
you'll be
spelled it
fine.
Q-U-N-T, the polite
Yes.
way. Yeah.
It means something in America that it doesn't mean here, so it's not a swear word at all. But it's
No, I was speaking as Vex, so it was what a Canadian.
Oh.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Stop digging. Okay, let's move on.
Well, just one more briefly. I promise this will be brief on that last one. Lots of people have been complaining about this being an act of overt evil by the Trudeau administration because the government wants to control and censor you. Trudeau has form in this, and his government does as well, such that they send people out to do interviews, basically saying that it's for the government to decide who will be censored and who won't, which doesn't help. However, the Conservative Party in Canada, I think, has taken this a little bit too far. So you have Pierre, is it Poilievre? I can't pronounce French names. Poilievre, is it?
Villeneuve.
Yeah, that one. He's had the entire Conservative Party, which was the only mainstream opposition to this bill, talking about how Trudeau is essentially turning it into a fascist totalitarian state. There's unfortunately in Canada, yes, that's more true than we would wish it to be. However, you can still import too much evil or impute too much evil to the bill than really exists. A lot of this is to do with general lack of understanding of legal terms by government ministers. So the government has given itself more power than it knows what to do with. The defense has been, well, okay, we don't really specify what we mean when we're passing this bill, but trust us, we're not going to impose this law on you because we don't intend to do that. Now, that's fine. Take them at their word on that. I'm happy to do that. The problem is that you can't guarantee a future government won't do that and won't exploit that sort of regulatory uncertainty that comes about. And the huge difference between people with the vision of the anointed, as Thomas Sowell defines it, and the tragic vision. People with the tragic vision say, look, if the government's theoretically given itself this power, it is safe to assume that the government will try and fuck you with it at some point. And the vision of the anointed, which Trudeau and his supporters are possessed with, is the government always has your best intentions at heart. So though it hasn't done a good job, at least it won't try and be evil. Both of these things can be right, but you side on the tragic vision because a future government cannot be guaranteed to protect you against the bill that its previous government has passed. So it's not a good bill by any means, and you should really, really protest against it when it comes into Australia in a couple of years' time, because they're currently drafting their own one.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you said you were going to be brief, Ben.
That was, by my standards, brief. At least it wasn't 2 hours.
Welcome to EFAP.
Let's move on. This was the big
You strike
news.
me down and I'll become more rich than you can possibly imagine.
Tucker Carlson was left Fox, he was booted.
He's still under contract with them, apparently. He's not allowed to do anything. But apparently he's in talks to sign with, what is it? Some other
Newsmax?
corporation. Newsmax, that's the one for
Who's
$100 million.
Newsmax?
Newsmax is a relatively recent arrival which is trying to compete with Fox. I would be very surprised if Tucker Carlson ended up there rather than somewhere like the Daily Wire.
Right.
Although apparently he's been told by Newsmax that he can control the channel completely.
Yeah, but they always say that to them until something happens and then they kick him off, don't they? So.
Yes.
So he'll be the James Gunn of Newsmax.
Yeah.
Is he not going to? Is Elon Musk not going to try and encourage him to come to Twitter?
Well,
That's
I mean, it's
Twitter's
not
on the table
impossible.
now, isn't it?
Yeah, Tucker Carlson's uniquely interesting because he is such
He
a
is.
unique draw.
He
And
draws
Elon
from the
Musk
left
is,
and the right.
well, he
You know,
does, yeah. In the same way as, you currently have one of the Kennedy scions challenging Biden for the presidency on the Democratic ticket and doing surprisingly well. He won't win, but he's doing surprisingly well because he is much more old-fashioned in the sense that Tucker Carlson is. Polarization can be answered by people who try and speak to the effectively working class of both sides, which is what Tucker Carlson was very good at. Both Democrats and Republicans have strong bases of support for basically anti-corporation protectionist stuff, which Tucker Carlson appeals to in the way that Kennedy Jr. also appeals to. Elon Musk is in an interesting position because we don't really know what he wants to do with Twitter as a multimedia platform. It's not impossible that he wants to, and he's talked in the past about trying to make Twitter the home of news, so it's not impossible that he might make an overture to Tucker, but I would be surprised if he did. Tucker Carlson's big enough to create his own enterprise, I think. Or the Daily Wire, which has a storied history of picking up fairly big names who've recently been let go. I don't think it'll be Newsmax, though, because Newsmax is also, from last I looked anyway, caught up in the Dominion lawsuit, which is one of the rumored reasons anyway, that Tucker has been let go from Fox. So going from one organization which has been tanked by a lawsuit to another one which is involved in the same lawsuit would be an interesting move.
Yeah, but Tucker was given free reign to say anything he wanted at the end of the day, and he did. And throughout his career at Fox, he said everything that was on his mind, and they didn't mind until Rupert Murdoch. He said something out of line with Rupert Murdoch, and then Rupert Murdoch put the kibosh on everything. So that's basically
Social
what happened
credit
to him.
score type
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
It is that. I mean, Rupert Murdoch is notoriously, certainly in his later years, he's been very, very sort of risk averse. So when News of the World gets massively embroiled in the phone hacking scandal, he just shuts the entire magazine, despite it being very, very popular at the time. With Fox, he doesn't think it's worth trying to fight the lawsuit, just that we'll pay as much as you want, and we'll get rid of anyone you want just to get rid of it. And it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he tries to sever his ties more definitely even than that. So he's on his way out. Tucker apparently offended him anyway for being a bit too free thinking. And he did stray a little bit close to the line on some of the Dominion stuff, I think. Tucker's been really interesting all the time, though, because you can disagree with him. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I think it's very important, and it's no coincidence he's so successful, because he is giving a very popular viewpoint that's been completely shut out of the mainstream media. He is asking questions that most media isn't asking, which are important questions to ask, even if the motive for asking them is wrong. His Ukraine stuff tends to be wrong, but at least someone is questioning the government about that. By comparison, you have the White House Correspondents' Dinner yesterday, where the tradition has always been for some kind of journalist or comedian to mock the president, but it turns out no, everyone in the room is on the side of the president, so they mock the opposition, which is just this huge advert for the establishment versus the people like Tucker. The reason Tucker is so successful is really perfectly encapsulated in that atmosphere at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The media and the Democratic Party are one and the same thing these days. He's a rare voice against that. That's why he's so successful. I hope he comes back very soon. I'll continue to disagree with him, but he's a useful voice.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I get the feeling the world is his oyster.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's unless they take him out first.
Exactly. We'll see.
I think I saw a clip where he said that the conversations that we need to be having, the news channels are not having them conversations, and we all know what those conversations are. We won't mention it, but
he's been critical of Fox itself while he was at Fox for the same reason. He's a bit duplicitous in that he will give quite fawning interviews to Donald Trump while his revealed texts in the lawsuit are incredibly scathing of Trump. So he is a careerist. He knows what it takes to get ahead, and that's not always as honest as he presents himself as being. But it doesn't detract from the good work he does in asking difficult questions, whether you agree with the reason for asking them or not. Someone needs to be asking them, if only for other people to say that they're wrong and here's why. Someone needs to be challenging mainstream narratives, and I will take anyone who does that.
Belatedly red-pilled.
No, I think he's been red-pilled for quite a long time.
Oh, he's had another red pill then, a double hit.
Yeah, a double red. He's taken two,
Yeah.
Green
overdosed.
Can I get a couple of those?
Okay.
I feel like a
really will be genuinely interesting to see what his next move is.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. This was on the Twitter today. It was trending. Alan Rickman. I just thought I'd put this
Alan Rickman, eh?
quote because it just seems to be quite appropriate.
Do you really think you
It's
stand a chance
a-
against us, Mr. Cowboy? Yeah, him.
Yeah, it's a humans need to be told stories. The more we're governed by idiots. And
Is this from his book?
Or his diaries, maybe, I think.
Yeah, it's a humans need to be told stories. The more we're governed by idiots and have no control over our destinies, the more we need to tell stories to each other about who we are, why we are, where we come from, and what might be possible.
It's a lovely quote until you realise that he thought that Tony Blair wasn't left-wing and controlling enough.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
It's kind of a mediocre quote, isn't it? It doesn't really inspire anything, really. Let's face it.
Nobody's perfect.
It's quite a random quote.
Great actor,
It's
though.
like out of nowhere. Like it was because I saw it too. Like someone else had tweeted it, and it was like, "What is this in regards to?" And it was just to nothing.
Out of context, well, that's the genius of it. Out of context, it can be applied to anyone. Like people on the left can like sympathize with this quote. People on the right can sympathize with the quote. If you read it in isolation, it's basically a libertarian manifesto. We're governed by idiots and liars, and we don't control our destinies because they control ours. That's a useful message to have, except that if you actually read the quotes around it, you realize that he doesn't have that same conception of libertarianism as you do, because he's not one, because he's an actor, which means he's incredibly left-wing, and basically a socialist. So good luck being governed by idiots, Mr. Rickman. In heaven or wherever.
I was just going to say he doesn't have to worry about being governed by anyone anymore.
The paradise beyond the Urals is a conceptual thing.
By Granthar's hammer, I shall avenge thee. That'd be better.
Mr. Rickman will not be joining us for the rest of his life, I think is the point.
Okay, let's move on.
And finally,
Brown's final thought.
Oh, this is new. What's this?
No, it's not.
Isn't it?
No. What's coming up? When a picture comes up, you'll know what he's saying.
Oh.
See,
If
people
you're
have
of a
seen-
certain age.
See, people of a certain age will understand that reference.
Of course. And I'm a man of a certain age, so there you go.
Okay. Brown's final thought.
Here's a morality tale.
The wonderful Jerry Springer died this week.
Yeah.
79 of, I think it was pancreatic cancer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know
It's
about
bad.
you guys. I was there in the late 90s.
As a guest on the first show.
Watching
Fighting a midget.
Sunday evening on, what channel was it? Probably was it Living or something like that in the UK?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
UK Style or UK Living? I can't remember. But Sunday evening, 9 p.m., Jerry Springer show was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was in the United States. It was it was a cultural phenomenon.
Same
It
here
really
as well.
was.
Yeah, it was great.
When people were fighting, he was at the back of the room. Have you not noticed that?
Jerry.
He was always at the back.
Well, he was the best at antagonizing people. That's what it was.
For sure.
He would, I mean, granted, most of that stuff was probably pre-scripted, but
Well, he
I
was
don't know.
he was the ringmaster of a WWE style thing where the general public was the participant as opposed to the audience.
Yeah.
He was incredibly entertaining. I'm not sure he was especially good for the culture, given that without Jerry Springer, you wouldn't have almost any reality TV that we currently experience. You wouldn't have Jeremy Kyle without Jerry Springer. And
Yeah,
that
thanks,
entirely depends
Jerry.
on whether or not you think that Jeremy Kyle was good for the country.
No. God, he was awful.
Somebody described the Springer show as water cooler TV,
Yeah.
which I'd agree with.
Well, it was just a circus, really. It was a freak show.
Yeah.
This
It's
my
animals do
sister-
the
Sometimes
funniest
quite
things,
literally.
but the
These are
animals are people.
pretty. Yeah. It was just a big old let's get the hillbillies fighting each other over some,
I love you, boy.
Yeah, a lot of incest and usual stuff like that.
So just typical American stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hick. Yeah.
I want a DNA test to prove that my mother is not my sister. So, yeah, okay.
It's my
And then we
wife
got
and
the-
sister. There's one guy.
And then it spread, didn't it? Because we got Jeremy Kyle.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
I just love the like Texas accents by British people. They come out sounding more Australian, if anything.
What about
How
that?
dare
They always
you.
used to say, and who's the guy say? And he is not the father.
Oh, that's
which one was that
Maury.
one?
Maury
Yeah,
Povich.
yeah.
Povich, yeah.
You are not the father. And the
father.
lie detector
That's
test
it.
determined
That's
that
it.
was a
Yeah,
lie.
yeah. The lie detector test.
So good.
It's terrible.
Here you go, folks. In the chat, not Brian. Wonder what his final thought was.
Probably, man.
08.
Man, cancer sucks. That's
Yeah.
probably what his final thought was.
or like something like, oh, I wish I would have won Dancing with the Stars. So
He did America's Got Talent for a while, didn't he?
yeah.
Well,
I
the
think
thing
so.
about Jerry Springer, it's like a lot of people didn't even realize until like relatively recently, because he did like eventually he went on to be Judge Jerry Springer, but he had a law degree. Like a lot of people didn't realize that about him for a long time.
Oh, he's a
Yeah.
very smart man.
Yeah, he just happened to figure out you could make a lot more money doing trash television. You know, like
Was
Yeah,
he
he
a
was-
mayor or something? Or
Was he what?
Yeah, he was a mayor and he was also a news anchor.
was it Chicago or somewhere?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can look it up. But yeah, no, he was a lot of things. He was Ohio. He was Cincinnati.
Yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
Here you go, Gunslinger. I love it when the new faces appear. He was mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
great.
Ironically enough, Gunslinger was a little slow on the draw on that one.
Am I right in saying that he was the very first to do that format of TV?
I think so.
He was.
I'd
I
say
don't know
so,
if he
yeah.
was the very first, but he was definitely the earliest successful version.
That was the first with fighting, isn't it? Because you used to have these sort of programs before. I mean, we even had some in the 80s, but they were really, really boring, really like middle class.
Well, he had security working for him as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unusual. That's why it was so successful, wasn't it? Because it broke that mold.
Here you go, folks. Hashtag R2Me2. I think we've had this joke before, but it's a good one. R.I.P. He's with Calculon now.
Well, I do think that his show probably, since
Yes.
apparently you guys are saying it did have international appeal, it probably just fueled the like, you know, the whole, oh, look at these stupid American stuff for a long time.
Well, in the way that Simon Cowell really sort of brought that sort of pop entertainment of normies trying to make it in the music industry to the forefront of the screen, Jerry Springer did the same thing before
No,
Simon
they weren't
Cowell
normal.
did.
They weren't normal.
Well, that's sort of the point, though, isn't it? It's the fact that there is no normal person.
Yeah,
There are a huge number of deeply troubled people, and you can monetize them for entertainment if you really want to. That's undeniably entertaining. He was very successful. All power to him for that. But not sure it was particularly good for entertainment. I think when was it
Oh, it was.
extras
It
when
was
Ricky
fantastic.
well no, as in good for entertainment in terms of elevating as opposed to reducing to the lowest common denominator. When is it extras when Ricky Gervais eventually ends up going on in character, goes on Big Brother and gives his sort of soliloquy about the exploitative nature of reality TV shows like this. That's a pretty good summation, I think, of Jerry Springer's career. We all find him entertaining. I find him entertaining. I used to watch Jeremy Kyle because I liked seeing how shit people could be. But it's not really edifying. And actually, it might be doing more damage than it is doing good.
Yeah.
Certainly is, Stanley. It
Well, they have
certainly
what's
is.
his name? The old like bouncer that used to be on Jerry Springer.
Steve.
Yeah, he's got his own show now.
Steve
hasn't
Wilkes, right?
he? Yeah, Steve
Yeah.
Wilkes.
Yeah, he has his own show, which is basically the Jerry Springer show, just without Jerry Springer. So you do have that
wow.
technically.
I need to check that
What a
out.
legacy.
I think that show's still around.
It is. I think he was on. Piers Morgan was interviewing him the other day about when Jerry died. So yeah, he's still got his own show. Yeah, Jerry Springer.
Wilcox,
TV
sorry, Steve Wilkes is a football coach. Sorry, Steve Wilcox.
TV legend. 79. Rest in peace, Jerry Jerry.
Rest in peace.
I think that's it, folks. Please consider donating to the channel. Links in the description, blah, blah, all that. A few of you have. You are wonderful for doing that.
Timing.
Timing.
Take care of each other.
I think that is it. So, chats, you
Take
are
care.
wonderful. Appreciate the interaction. Top drawer, as always. Appreciate you popping in. I will thank the guests from the bottom of the screen. The Mega Geek. Cheers, Ian.
No worries.
The Governor, probably.
Cheerio. Thank you.
Dark Hour. Thank you, my friend.
Fun as always.
Oh, yes.
That's
I love this
sarcastic.
guy.
Love it.
I love this guy.
That's not me. That's not sarcasm. That's just how I talk. That's my voice.
Oh God, I'm so
The
sorry.
I've not
backbone.
watched any of my videos. They're literally deadpan the whole time.
He's the backbone of Sunday night when he can be bothered to turn up. It is Matt Cat 83.
Thank you for having me. I always have a good time with you guys.
Great to have you back, mate.
Nerds.
Nerds.
And
Awesome.
last but by no means least, the Lord, everybody, Little Platoon.
Thank you as ever.
Cheers, buddy. I'm going to consult my script now. There is a script, if I can.
Yeah, you might not have
Find
guessed it in
it.
the chat, but the show is kind of planned sometimes. When we haven't ordered.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Very
We just-
rare.
we
I
just
wasn't
don't-
planned on this one. I was just sitting on my couch and then I was like, "Hey, are you available?" I was like, "Yep, I'll just."
Right,
Yeah,
question
I
then.
just wandered in by mistake.
For my OCD, do we go to the 3 hours or do we bail?
I mean, we could probably stretch it for 4 minutes. Just ask Platoon one question.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to
That'll do
bat
it.
it out then, folks, for another 4 minutes. So,
That'll do it.
Dark Hour, pick a subject. Go.
Oh, come on, really? You're gonna do this to me now? Pass.
Probably, you've been quiet tonight.
I've been really enjoying 'cause
Listening
funny,
for
you
once.
mentioned Douglas Adams. I
It's
was
been good, hasn't
listening.
it?
I was watching Dirk Gently, both the British version and the American version, and the audiobook on YouTube. So that was fun.
Mm.
Really good.
I wanted to ask Mr. Roomfondle his opinions on rigidly defined areas of doubt and uncertainty, but I don't think he's still here. It's
all interconnected.
yeah, it's a Hitchhiker's reference. Don't
Oh, I
worry.
see. Okay.
Okay, I've been prompted by the wonderful, not Brian Young. If I can see my slides correctly,
What's he
is it this
prompting?
one?
Return of the Jedi.
thought
We
we'd
are
done
Come
gonna
on, are
be-
we going back to this? We did this for like
We-
3 hours already.
We are going to be reviewing this Wednesday with Ruin Johnson.
Are we?
Yes.
You are.
Who are?
And I'm hoping Robot Head will be on as well. That's Return of the Jedi, folks.
Yeah.
That's Star Wars. Just in
Okay, you're
case
really
you forgot.
padding this out now, aren't you?
Well,
I
I'll
might
just
be
tell
around
you
3
for
this,
that.
minutes.
I'll just tell
I
you
think I
this,
can-
Brownie. If there's like a last minute you need me, I'll be doing that from my car on the way home from work. Which I could. I've seen the movie enough times, but it would be.
Streaming and driving is not good.
I might be around for that one actually. I have a
Drinking and driving's not good either, is it?
We were kind of hoping that you were,
Ranking and
hence
driving.
why we'd put it off till this week.
Oh. Well, yeah, it'll delay one of my videos, but to be honest, at this point,
it's
one
Return
of
of
them
the
should be
Jedi,
delayed
isn't it?
inevitably. So I'll be streaming from 8:30 on someone else's channel, but I'll be free for 10ish. So yeah, if you're
For
wanting
tennis.
someone, I'll be there.
10
I'll be streaming me playing tennis. Yes,
Tennis.
It's a new hobby
At
I've
my
taken
club.
up.
Pims and lemonade, Lord.
My special guest is Andy Murray.
Strawberries and cream. Lovely.
Igo,
I used to
see,
live on Wimbledon.
we'll pad it out. We're padding it out. Average British nerd, the little platoon, that's you, Lord. What's in the works?
I thought I'd covered this already. Next one up is probably Peter Pan and Wendy. That's at some point this week. My ideal was to get the Mando Part 2 video up before the end of the week. That probably won't happen at this point. And then there is Guardians of the Galaxy, which will be up next Monday before Beast Up episode, whatever the fuck we're on.
Seven.
Seven. Oh, thank you. Someone remembers what episode of my own show I'm on. That's good.
Well, I was on the last one, so it's easy to
Oh,
remember.
well, there you go.
Blue Man's not tomorrow, is he?
two. We're not doing tomorrow because Movie Cynic is away.
Cynic is off getting drunk with his friends.
I was going to say,
Yes,
if you need
he
somebody
is.
to co-present, I'd be available. But if you're not
Very
doing it, fair
kind.
enough.
I might be streaming Fallen, or not Fallen, or the Jedi Survivor instead tomorrow. So yeah, no Beast Up tomorrow. Beast Up returns next Monday. We might get the drinker on if he's around. I know he said he might be. And then we'll be discussing Guardians, and hopefully my Guardians video will go up that day. So yeah, next projects are Peter Pan and Wendy, Mando possibly, and then Guardians. And if Mando hasn't already come out by that point, Mando will come after Guardians.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Busy boy.
So
So
and I longed
sounds
that
like
out into the
a
last
laugh.
45 seconds of the stream. So now we can do an
15,
actual outro.
16, 17,
Can you
18.
discuss fiscal policy for one?
no, sod off. Okay, so I'll put the slide back.
Very
There you
good.
go, folks.
Very good.
We're approaching the end now.
Yeah, the thing is, you'll click the button and then we'll overrun
Yeah,
any
exactly.
It'll be
There's a few seconds,
3
yeah,
hours
okay.
and 5
So
seconds.
I think that's it, folks.
Well, when he cuts out my
I'm
flub
Daddy
up,
speaking.
Timing.
Till
Ta-ta.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care of
Quiet,
yourself.
please don't spoil this moment.
Annie.
Till next time.
Bye.
Take care. Will you shut the... This is
Come on,
important.
spit it out.
This is important.
Hit
Timing.
it now. Hit the button.
Now, done.
Till next time, take care of
Oh,
yourselves.
you fucked it.
And do you know what I'm gonna mute the fucking lot of you. There you go. Right. Till next time, take care of yourselves.
And on an even number.
Right. Bear with me. I'm just gonna boot the fuckers off. Here we go.
Bye.
Okay, there's only you, Matt, because I know you behave. You're a professional, not like them fuckers. Okay, till next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
Timing.